All right, Ben, let's just start with what the fuck is wrong with Democrats who can't denounce this war? Like, how hard is it to just say, like, we don't want to do regime change wars, and especially in the way they're being conducted by this bozo?
Yeah, I've been on something of a crusade on this, or maybe that's the wrong word to use, actually. But I mean, I guess there's three reasons to oppose it, and then there are reasons why not every Democrat is, right? I mean, one, it's a crazy idea to launch an illegal and unnecessary war against Iran that has unleashed chaos that was very predictable in the region. It's killed people. It's destabilized the global economy. It's destabilized geopolitics. And it's wrong, right? So that should be enough to oppose it. The second reason to oppose it is that Donald Trump is the one who launched it, and it's never good to support an autocratic leader who gets a taste of wars. We've seen where that can lead in history. The third reason to oppose it is the politics are obvious, right? So even if the morality and the right and wrong of it all doesn't appeal, in the Democratic Party alone, 7% of Democrats are supportive of the war, and a huge majority of independents are against the war. Some of Trump's own most prominent supporters are against the war. So political opportunity beckons. I think the reasons why, and look, to be fair, most Democrats oppose this. So this is not one where like there's a huge number of people in Congress or something who are tentative. I think that the argument for the reasons why there's still some Democrats, particularly the older ones, who have that kind of post 9/11, like I don't want to be called weak, and and I don't want to vote against the troops. By the way, opposing the war is the best thing for the troops because we don't need them getting killed in this situation. But that's one. I think another one, Jason, you may have experienced this when we were there, but there's this kind of like tentative nature when things like this happen among some Democrats to be like, well, what if it works out, Right. And you could kind of feel that in the first days of the war, like, well, maybe this will go well and I don't want to be against it. I think we can actually...
Which is what Trump did, right? Like when Israel struck, Trump was like, oh, wait, they're getting, they're having some success. I want a piece of that.
Yes, exactly. So, I think not even 2 weeks into this, we can see that that's probably not... right. But anyway, that drives me nuts because take a position, don't wait to see what happens,
I do think that last point, the Israel of it, also complicates the reaction, which is like the one of the best and easiest arguments about this is a war that our government was and President Trump was tricked into launching by Bibi Netanyahu because they set the timetables for this and they said that you either need to go or we're going to go without you. And to just say that it is bad for American policy to be led by the neck by the Israeli government is a true and just position. However, it is an argument that Democrats get very squidgy about making. So that is part of it too.
You anticipated my last argument, Jason, which is, look, I mean, we can name this because it's quite obvious that, number one, that this is something Bibi Netanyahu has wanted to do for a long time, and he pressed Donald Trump to do it. And if you look at the Democrats who've been more tentative, let's just say that the overlapping Venn diagram between people who are, very supportive of the Israeli government conventionally, and those who are tentative in opposition to this war or even supportive of it, that's a 100% overlapping Venn diagram. Yeah. And look, I mean, this is, I think the challenge for some Democrats has been they've kind of carved out Israel, on everything else, I'm kind of a conventional Democrat, but, it's part of my political DNA that I'm supportive of Israel. And I just think what those Democrats have to reckon with is that might have been, more defensible 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But this particular Israeli government, under this particular Israeli Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, has moved so far to the right that, you can't kind of get a pass anymore,
Yeah. And the public, the public has moved on as well, right? Like the U.S.
especially younger Americans. Like the it's not just Democrats either, Ben. It's like I was listening to Sarah Longwell on the Bulwark, and she was talking about how she reflexively, as sort of a Republican, a historic Republican, has an intrinsic well kind of built into her political instinct to defend Israel at all times. And, even in these contemporary moments where it's clear that the politics of that has changed, like she feels conflicted when she hears people, speak against Israel because it so quickly becomes she's like, and I do hear things that become not just anti-Israel or anti-Zionist, but quickly become anti-Semitic in the Republican focus groups. And I think part of the challenge there is that you want to be able to make those arguments without sounding like Tucker Carlson or without sounding,
or Nick Fuentes,
sounding like Nick Fuentes. Like it is a very difficult rhetorical ground to be able to say it is not in America's interest to simply obey the wishes of the Netanyahu government without finding a path into some of the, without having people from the far right who will applaud and the far left who will applaud that argument for bad reasons. And it's a difficult area.
When there's ample evidence for everyone's eyes, as we're seeing what the impacts have been here. And so, Ben, the next question is, literally, is there a path to end this war? This notion of, I opened up the Times this morning to an oil tanker on fire, outside Oman, and this idea of, like, are they going to let the Strait open back up? Is there a path where Iran is going to be willing to say we're ready to de-escalate this?
Well, that's the right way to frame the question, because I think in the Trumpian reality show that we live in the United States, there's this kind of question of, well, when's Trump going to stop the war? And I do think just given the fact that the politics are so disastrous, given the fact that gas prices are going up, Trump will probably look for an off-ramp relatively soon.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that, number one, Israel will stop, bombing Iran and Lebanon. And number two, it doesn't mean that the Iranians will stop their reprisal attacks on shutting down the Straits of Hormuz, on hitting Gulf states, on firing missiles at Israel and at U.S. bases. Because Iran, I think, feels like we got hit in the so-called 12-day war last year. We didn't really respond. And then they came back for more and killed the supreme leader, et cetera. And so they need...
While we were negotiating a ceasefire.
While we were negotiating,
whatever,
right?
Yeah.
So I think their reaction is to impose such a cost on everybody, on America, on the Gulf states, on the global economy, that we won't attack them again. And so they might just keep it up. I would say that even if they don't, beyond the death and destruction we've seen in the Middle East, it will already take many months to restore, just to take one example, Qatar runs one of the largest LNG, liquefied natural gas fields in the world. They shut it down. It'll take them weeks to just turn it back on. If they have mined the Straits of Hormuz, it will take months to clear those mines, and months for shippers to feel confident that they're not going to get blown up if they go through there. So, even in the best case scenario of like Trump turning off the bombing campaign relatively soon, we could still see violence. We could still see disruption for many, many months. And by the way, what if Iran does have like a civil war? What if people do rise up, as Trump called them to? It's not like the Iranian regime is going to submit to that. Yeah. So you could have a civil war, and we've seen how long those can last.
Syria,
many years, right? Syria, Iraq, Libya. So I don't know. This thing could be with us longer than Donald Trump even imagines he can control the timelines.
Two points on that came to mind as just a not a foreign policy expert, but a person who reads Twitter. It's been a great moment for people observing the situation and coming up with solutions to the Middle East crisis and proposing them on Twitter. Like, one of my favorites was recently someone posted a map of the Strait of Hormuz and was just like, okay, here's the point. It's like, what if we just unloaded all the oil and put it on trucks and moved it across? And unfortunately, the part of land that they're talking about is the fucking desert of Oman. Like, there's not like, there's not like a fucking highway between like those 2 points on Earth. It's just the desert. It's like hundreds of miles of desert. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll get right on. Right on that, my guy.
I saw that too, and I appreciated the creativity. But the other reality is that they built this whole infrastructure on a shipping model, right? So,
Right.
you know, the you drill, you refine, you put it on a ship, and that's all wired, right? It's built to deliver it onto tankers, and 20% of the world's fossil fuel energy flows through the Straits of Hormuz,
Which is
so
crazy. Yeah.
By the time you built the highway and reoriented all the facilities to load onto trucks instead of tankers, that would take years. So,
this is
points
this
for
is the one
creativity.
Yeah.
This is the one that got me this morning. The fact that the only thing flowing through the Strait of Hormuz is oil from
That Iran is
Iran
selling.
to China.
Yeah.
Well,
Great job. Great job, Donald.
Jason knows because he was there with me when we were doing the Iran nuclear deal, and I've spent far more hours on that than anything in government. But one of the things that was so shocking to me about this whole situation is that we did war game scenarios, like what would happen if there was a war with Iran. And literally, Iran shutting down the Straits of Hormuz and was always like one of the first things that they did. I mean, you could be a teenager playing a simulation and you would know that. And there are these reports coming out that they're surprised that Iran is doing this. So we're also living with we always wondered when the kind of complete incompetence of the Trump people would actually start to sink in. And they kind of, got lucky at the tables on the Venezuela operation. But now we're seeing the fact that the senior people in the U.S. government didn't expect something to happen that anybody who knows anything about Iran knew would happen is pretty alarming.
I also
But Jared and Witkoff didn't realize what they were actually negotiating. They didn't understand the terms, etc.
Yes. I also love this thing from Trump where he's just like, the oil tanker captains should just go for it. He's basically just like, what's the matter, you pussy? Like, why don't you just fucking gun it through the strait? Like, I just, it's really giving, it's like every time he goes out and gives this, why don't you just I think they need to show some guts. It's really giving the mayor from Jaws who's just like, the beaches are open. Amity means friendship. Why aren't you going in the water? No one's going to go in the water unless you go in the water, Fred. It's like, okay, I'll go in the water.
So the part that is making me nervous about all this actually goes back to your first appearance on the pod when you were here for 3 Days of the Condor, and we talked about the modern equivalent. So as we disassemble our THAAD systems in South Korea and move them to the Middle East, what's your feeling on where Taiwan stands right now and how Xi is looking? How many more times can Trump provoke Xi before he finally just says, all right, we're going for it?
Well, that's the bigger problem with this, right? Because there's layers of what's messed up about this. Like the first layer is the people being killed in an unnecessary war. The second layer is Iran could become actually more dangerous on the back end of this. The third layer is that the Gulf states that produce so much of the world's energy no longer think America is reliable, and they could just drift to China, Russia. But then, yes, there's the macro sense of what do Putin and Xi take away from this, right? Putin takes away all bets are off. Good luck criticizing me over my Ukraine war after the United States is, doing regime change left and right, and maybe he gets more aggressive in other former Soviet states, Georgia, the Baltics. But yes, the main event to me is Asia, and Xi Jinping's got to be looking at this. From a military standpoint, all of the munitions that we're using, all these anti-aircraft, anti-missile batteries that we're using are a finite resource that we would need in a Taiwan conflict. And frankly, that we also, one stat that jumped out to me is we've used more Patriot missiles, those are our best anti-missile batteries, than we've given Ukraine. Right, so those are weapons that are not available for Ukrainians to defend themselves. But similarly, those are weapons that we can't use to defend Taiwan or Japan or South Korea. The THAAD is our most sophisticated missile defense system. We've already had some of those blown up in this conflict. We're moving it, and so I worry about two things. One is Xi Jinping just being now's the time to go. The Americans have lost all credibility. Nobody can tell me that I'm, breaking the rules when we've seen the Americans break the rules. The Americans can't really defend Taiwan given how much they've spent down their munitions. All of that is in play. I'd offer another one, which is North Korea. Remember them? what if they decide to mess with South Korea? I mean, what if they just start trying to, I don't know that they'll invade, but they could start trying to intimidate them, knowing that our defenses are down. So this thing could have a long and unpredictable tail in terms of geopolitics.
This is a point that I wanted to bring up because it kind of ties into your excellent podcast appearance with Ezra Klein, in which you outlined the problems with this version of foreign policy, and Ezra followed that up with a podcast with your counterpart in Trump 1, the National Security Advisor,
I saw that.
which has gotten a lot of attention because Ezra normally doesn't debate.
Congress has no role.
Ezra normally doesn't debate like sort of his interlocutor. Like his point is like kind of allow the person to bring up their views, but she makes like a bunch of claims, like including that Congress has no role in declaring war, and Ezra is forced to kind of read the Constitution, which is pretty amazing. But
Congress shall have the power to declare war.
It's pretty strong. But like the more nuanced question that he was pressing her on that he didn't get an answer to is like, okay, this old political order in which there's a system of international norms and laws that mean that we by default respect international sovereignty, and there you have to, if you're going to invade another country, it needs to be done through international auspices, whether that is NATO or whether that is the UN. Like there's got to be
coalition
something
building
before you do something. Like what is actually going to replace that? And I think it, her answer was basically well, I think NATO is a good framework. I was like, well, I'll tell you one person who doesn't think NATO is a good framework is Donald Trump. So I don't find that to be a very convincing answer. And instead, the political order that he seems to believe in is the Stephen Miller, the only iron law of the world is strength and power, and where you can project it and what you can take. And it's okay, if that is your point of view, what are you going to do in the situation where you've got a Putin, and you've got a Kim Jong-un, and you've got a Xi, who all are following that same basic playbook? That is the history of the world up until 1914, and it has a pretty predictable outcome. So I don't think the other side has not gone through the effort to really to articulate what they think should be replacing the political order that they have destroyed. And I think the answer is just it's going to be carnage and chaos, which is what we've always had when the iron law has been the only rule obeyed.
Yeah. Well, we wrote the rules after World War II for a reason. I mean, because we'd lived through 2 world wars, and we're like, we don't want to go through that again. So we need laws about when and how you can go to war. We need laws about how you can conduct war. I mean, I remember in the Gaza context, Netanyahu kept saying, well, what's the big deal? Look what you guys, firebombed Dresden in Germany.
Right.
And the whole point was and everybody realized that that's not necessarily a good world to live in, so let's not do that again. And so, and look, what I think the Trump people miss is they're constantly bitching about how the rules, constrain the United States, but we were smart enough for one moment in time after World War II to say we have to accept some constraints on ourselves in order to have these constraints apply to China, to apply to Russia. And when you throw out the rules, that might feel good that, suddenly you can play the game with no rules, but that means your opponents are playing the games with no rules too. And, and look, to come back to the question about Xi, China, for all their problems, and they've broken a lot of rules in terms of how they treat their own people, they've stolen some intellectual property, things like that, they have not invaded a neighbor.
No.
They've actually followed the rules on that score. And now, if you're Xi Jinping and you're looking around and you see what Putin's doing and what Trump's doing, you're like, why am I the last great power standing that doesn't just invade my neighbors? And so I think that's the existential danger here, because you get rid of all the rules and you've got a bunch of strongmen nationalists in charge of these major military powers. Why wouldn't that lead to, World War I, World War II again?
It's very frustrating, because it's one thing, when Biden won and it was like, okay, look, Trump was an anomaly, guys, we're back, the U.S. is back, NATO is back, everything's gonna be okay. It's like, fool me once, but having it happen the second time, I just think the implications of this are gonna be going on for a long time. One last question. One last question I want to ask you about, Ben, because I know it is a particular focus of yours, is just where we stand on Cuba and where you think things, can and should unfold from here.
Yeah, I mean, if people have been following it, over the last few weeks, the Trump administration has gone beyond the already, completely onerous sanctions regime on Cuba to essentially try to strangle this island, to starve it, literally, because they're blockading, essentially, any fuel getting into Cuba. And that's on top of an embargo on Cuba. But what that means is you need fuel to have power and electricity. You need fuel to run hospitals, right? And so there is a massive humanitarian crisis in Cuba. They're rolling blackouts. And at the same time, you have Trump saying, essentially, that, the other day he said we might have a friendly takeover of Cuba.
What the fuck does that mean?
Well, what's clear is that what's so odd about Cuba is they say that they're negotiating with the Cuban government, but the reality is, unlike Iran, which you could at least point to the nuclear program and the missile program, Cuba poses no threat whatsoever to the United States.
Right,
it's this impoverished island, and so they don't even have anything to trade away in terms of some military capability. And so they seem to be insisting that they negotiate their own existence away, and that's kind of not how negotiation works. And so my concern is that they try to replicate, the Venezuela thing, like they do some military operation to kidnap Cuba's leaders. And the problem with that is, as we've seen in Iran, the people in Iran who have the most weapons are going to fill a power vacuum, and that's happened. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, who features in the movie we're going to talk about. And in Cuba, the people with weapons are the Cuban military. And so even if you were to somehow get rid of the political leadership in the Communist Party, I don't think the Cuban military is going to want to give up their monopoly on power in Cuba either. And so you could have a violent situation. You could have a complete humanitarian implosion. You could basically turn Cuba into Haiti, where it's this kind of violent, impoverished place 90 miles from Florida. There's people, what Trump's worst nightmare, right? Waves of Cubans, coming into Florida. Yeah. So they have not seemed to have thought this one through either, And by the way, I have friends around the world who are like, do you guys realize, I know your attention spans are short, how insane it would be if within a period of months you remove the governments of Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba? That's scary stuff. That's like, I don't know, pick your historical analogy, but leaders that knock over the governments of 3 countries in a few months.
It's not a great list to be on.
Yeah,
you don't want to be on that list.
You don't want to be on that list. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's going good.
It's going great. It's going great.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. We're happy to get around the board and get that context, even though it's very challenging. It is a good reminder that we've been in these kind of situations before, and the hope is that we will begin this year to start to get a movement that will start to put some constraints on this.
That's right.
So that is what we're going to hang on to. But so thank you, Ben Rhodes. We are glad to have you back. Welcome back to Escape Hatch.
Yeah.
It's exciting. The highlight of my year every year.
This is your 6th appearance on the pod. And
is it 6? Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, number 6. 3 Days of the Condor, Her, Hunt for Red October, Tinker Tailor, my God, and Casablanca. Just a
Only the
banger.
Best. Only the best.
I will say that the Her podcast holds up really well with
Timeless.
AI.
It does.
Tinker Tailor holds up with moral ambiguity. We're not always the good guys in the way we think.
Yeah.
The Condor, my God, Condor was about a plot to take Middle Eastern oil, I think, right? So
right.
Yeah.
We're waiting
R.I.P.
for
Robert
Casablanca.
Redford.
We're waiting for this to become Rick again. Like, that will be.
Let's hope we don't need that. Yeah, let's hope we don't need that one. Well, that holds up as an anti-fascist movie. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
movie.
Americans doing the right thing against fascism. So we're gonna hope that we'll get back there. But tonight, as Jason called out, you pinged us and you suggested an amazing film, which we are going to do in just a few minutes. We are doing Ben Affleck's incredibly timely 2012 thriller, Argo. Argo.
Mm-hmm. Banger.
But before we do, Jason, it has all been leading to this.
Yeah. Exciting.
The countdown to 300. Next week, episode 300.
Okay.
Episode 300, baby. We made it.
Doing?
We are, well, first of all, let's talk about who is joining us. So coming back on the pod, I think for maybe like the 13th appearance and probably the 6th or 7th appearance for his co-host, we welcome back our dear friends and the co-hosts of The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of, the House of the Dragons, Ryan Condal and Curb and Veep and everybody else, Dave Mandel.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Guests. Amazing guests.
They
Some
were
of our best.
They were here for episode 200 when we did Raiders, which was an incredible episode. So I pinged them. I put up the flares. And Jason, we got a call from the Film Bro Podcast Union that we were in stark violation and that our credentials would be revoked if we hit episode 300 without covering next week's film.
Which is?
So, Stanley Kubrick.
Oh.
Ooh.
Stephen King.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The Shining.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
We've done precious little Stanley Kubrick, as I complain about frequently on this pod.
What's the problem? Why won't you do more Kubrick?
Yeah. I think we should go I think we should do Pass of Glory, given war.
What about Strangelove?
We've done Strangelove.
We did Strangelove.
Strangelove and Strangelove is the Strangelove and 2001 are the two that we've done, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Shining is like, have you guys ever spent any time on Shining Reddit?
No. What do they got in there?
Every single theory of what every single symbol in the movie is, right? Like, what is the symbolism of the thing in the closet when the kid's in the closet? You know, like what is the symbolism of the bar that Jack goes into? You know, like all these things. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and then there's also Ready Player One, which had that huge Shining homage. I'm gonna have to rewatch that portion of it. So that is next week. It's incredibly excited. I'm proud, Jason. 300 episodes. We'll be, all in our feelings next week. But,
That's great.
This is it. We have made it.
That's great.
Can we do?
Does your Dune origin lead you guys to root for Timmy in the Best Actor category?
We're strongly in the bag for. I'm glad you bring this up.
We've been
spending a not inconsiderable amount of time on this, and we're worried about our boy.
Can we do some?
Our boy got himself into some trouble. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot.
Can we do some Hatch news?
Let's do some Hatch news from beyond. This is. We'll start with the Timmy Oscar race. It's very important.
Number one.
There's an analysis according to Matt Belloni and friend of the pod Peter Kafka. Timmy still has it locked up because all of his recent trouble with like the opera is a dead art form, about which he is not wrong. No. All of those comments happened after voting had ended or towards the end of voting.
Okay.
So he's like he probably wasn't going to cost themselves with too many votes for that. But in general, the try-hard nature of a young male actor is not something that the Academy, which likes to reward legacy performances of people who've earned it, it's going to resonate with them. So there's a very good argument that like if he had just not done any of this like Marty Supreme, like, braggadocio stuff, he would have been in a better place to just win this award.
Do you mean that just for this Oscar portion or for the entire marketing campaign of Marty Supreme? Because I feel like that market is so innovative, what he did, and was so good.
He got people to. He got $100 million box office about a fucking ping pong player.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because there are that many Safdie brothers stands out there. That was because Timmy was doing the best.
And
marketing
he probably
campaign I've
wouldn't
ever
have
seen.
got the nom unless he'd gone out and hyped it as much as he did. But there's something about the campaign. There's something about his earnestness that's going to cost him some votes for sure. I like what he's doing, and so it doesn't offend me. But like it may cost him some votes. I think the bigger red flag that I've not really seen explained away is that Michael B. Jordan won the actor at the SAG Awards, called the Actor Awards. And like it's an amazing performance. So it's obviously deserving of an Oscar as well. I'm pretty nervous. The Timmy, Matt Belloni says the Timmy stock is still a buy on your prediction markets because he thinks it's going to be wrapped up. We do not offer betting advice here on Escape Hatch. But I'm gonna be rooting for him this Sunday. I'm hoping my guy gets it. He deserves it.
Yes.
He's a great actor and is going to have an amazing career that should be marked in this way. That's my take.
it is a real special alignment of Marty in particular for him because he has been so focused on greatness and is willing to do that. I just you love to see it. Well, speaking of loving to see Timothy Chalamet, is the Dune 3 trailer imminent, Jason? Many people are saying next week.
Yeah, many people are saying it is going to premiere before the IMAX presentation of Hail Mary, which is apparently going to be the greatest science fiction movie of all time. The Hail Mary is the hype for Hail Mary is insane. I'm very excited for it. I don't know when I'm going to get to see it, but I'm very excited for it. And allegedly the Dune 3 trailer is before it, so I believe you will see it first, as you're going to like a 9 a.m. projection of Hail Mary on
2
Thursday.
p.m.
Yeah.
2 p.m. 70 millimeter IMAX performance in the Metreon. It's going to be
I have
incredible.
parent-teacher conferences that day, so I'm unable to attend, unfortunately.
It's that on the screen where we'll be doing the Dune 3 premiere. So, Ben, I hope you will be coming up to San Francisco for the Dune 3 premiere with us in December.
Details to be determined, Ben, because right now the Dune 3 premiere is very stressful. The Dune 3 premiere is supposed to be like the 18th of December, and it's just a terrible time of year to convince people to travel and come together for a big party. So,
Griffin's birthday, Hanukkah.
My son's birthday is really fucking up the whole release schedule. Yeah. We need to get into touch with Warner Brothers. But
yeah, come on, guys.
There's an easy way for the Ellisons to win me over, by the way, is as a result of this Paramount purchase. If they move the Dune 3, premiere to a date that doesn't conflict with my son's birthday. So.
I'm one of these guys. Also, I mean, I'm very excited for Dune 3. I'm also very excited for Odyssey. For the Odyssey,
yes.
I'm a Christopher Nolan guy, so that will be another IMAX banger. No question. Yeah.
I just finished the Odyssey and started the Iliad, so.
You're ready.
I'm like trying to get myself as maxed into it as I can. All right, next point of Dune news. Jason, there's a new Star Wars book coming out.
What is it?
It is called Edge of the Abyss by Rebecca Roanhorse.
Okay.
And it's the sequel to Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear by Alexander Freed.
Okay. Am I excited about Star Wars books now? Is that a thing I'm supposed to...
Not generally. From the official description, over a decade into the Empire's reign, life under Imperial rule has become routine. Mon Mothma and Bail Organa face dwindling influence and increasingly shift their focus to support clandestine resistance efforts.
I see. It's a Tony Gilroy vibe.
Featuring Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Saw Gerrera, Anto Krieger, Perrin Firtha, Leda Mothma, Luthen Rail.
That's fun.
And Clea Markey.
That's fun. It's kind of like
They're doing it.
It's a methadone Andor, is what you're telling me.
We hope, man.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
All right.
Let's do this.
We're never getting Dave Filoni's never going to give us another show that good again. Let's just be clear, but that's fine.
Seems unlikely. Very excited. I will definitely watch that. Last thing I will say, this is just a quick plug of something that we got into. Sam discovered this last week, Motley Crue. We were doing on baseball's opening day, I had the game day playlist playing, and about 5 seconds into the song, Kickstart My Heart, Sam from the back seat of the car goes, well, hold up. How come you have never played this band for me? These guys rock harder than AC/DC and Queen.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You're really raising them. You're really raising them to be a little hardcore rock and roller over there.
I mean, he did start at School of Rock this week with his first lesson. He's been taking guitar lessons, but we moved him over there, and he's going to be playing in a band starting this summer. So it's all coming together. But I just didn't know getting Crew in the mix was good.
Meanwhile, our most played song on the way to school right now is Axolotl in the Ocean, which is a Minecraft parody of Astronaut in the Ocean.
Okay.
Which is, I will say, pretty strong. What you know about mining down in the deep? When you run out of wood, you can call that absent trees. That's kind of a fire lyric. So shout out to those, whoever it is that does that Minecraft parody of Astronaut.
Banger.
Yeah.
Good job. I hope people just enjoyed listening to that right now. Last thing that I'll say is we just want to say hello to a new patron. Lon joined us. Welcome, Lon. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Lon. It was great to see a new Patreon show up, a new engineer.
It's happened. Do you get alerts, Ben, on the Friends of the Pod Discord? Like anything pop off?
We don't. Backdoor plug, though, I have a Substack now.
Yeah, you have a Substack. I'm a subscriber.
What's really hardening is it's not paid, right? So come on in, it's for free. But some people just pledge money, right? And you get an alert every time somebody pledges money to your Substack. So thanks.
It's gotta feel good.
It does feel good,
Amazing. Good. Excellent. All right. Are you guys ready to get into this?
I couldn't be any more ready. I am stoked about this, man. Let's go. Did you do a synopsis this week, or is it a synopsis?
I did do a synopsis this week. So
hit us. Oh yeah, clear your throat. Get ready.
I did not need the help. I did not need the help from the robot. Yeah. All right, here we go. Argo is the best bad idea to deal with an impossible situation. In the fall of 1979, after the violent overthrow of the brutal authoritarian regime propped up for decades by the U.S. government, 6 members of the State Department are able to flee the U.S. Embassy as it is overrun by local militias and avoid capture alongside the other 52 staff who weren't so lucky. With chaos on the streets and the new Revolutionary Guard furiously searching for these fugitives, it falls to CIA exfiltration specialist Tony Mendez to get them out. His only feasible plan is crazy. Fake the filming of a low-budget science fiction film and forge identities for the 6 of them as the director, writer, producer, cameraman, assistant producer, and production designer. Enmeshed fighting government bureaucracy, the dangers he himself faces on the ground in Tehran, and the even more insidious backrooms of Hollywood power brokers, Tony must at last convince his fellow filmmakers to believe in themselves, because if they're going to fool the people who would gleefully string them up, they must believe that they really are in Iran filming the schlock sci-fi classic, Argo.
Wow. That's great.
Dang. Argo. What a flick.
The PDC synopsis bot failed at generating it for Argo because the fuzzy logic matched Argo to Rango.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Ben, what is your history with Argo? When did you first see it?
I saw this in the theater when I was serving in the United States government and had access to, the top secret security clearance. So that was a kind of interesting way to see it. Because Argo's 2 stories, right? There's the story of the hostages and the people that are in Iran and great political history of Iran. And it's a story about Hollywood and a lot of inside jokes about how Hollywood works and the CIA's relationship to Hollywood. So I saw it in theater and I was like, it hit for me because, and we can kind of get into the pieces of this, but actually the Affleck character, Tony Mendez, is also, I was not an exfiltration specialist. I want to posit that at the beginning here. But the idea of a guy who's kind of lost himself in his job, he's stressed out, he's tired of bureaucracy, he's tired of a world that keeps throwing shit at him, he's drinking a little too much,
family
he's smoking.
Situation is tough.
That was all me. Jason, I had the bottle of whiskey in the office. I was smoking in those days. It hit for me in like these, and I was working on Iran a lot. So it hit on these different levels. And then I will say this became I travel a lot. This is my number 1 plane movie.
Interesting.
Because you can just kind of dip into it. You can either watch the whole thing or you can watch some of it. It's always entertaining. You catch new things when you watch it. So I've probably watched it, 15 times on planes, I think, over the years.
Wow, dang.
And went back to it last night, in the current context. So I've got a great history with Argo, and it's peak Affleck. I mean, and as someone who we grew up, we were kind of the generation that saw Good Will Hunting when we were, still kind of kids. And the fact that he got himself through all of his action phase and his divorces and relationships into true auteur status. With this,
it's pretty crazy.
I was rooting for it. I was glad to see it.
Absolutely. Nice. Jason, what about you?
I saw it when it came out too and loved it. And it's not a movie. I've revisited a ton. I think I've seen it one other time since I saw it when it came out. Was really stoked to watch it for the pod. And it was way better than I even remembered. I don't remember not liking it or whatever. I was just like, oh yeah, that was good, and did well at the Oscars or whatever. But when I was rewatching it, I was really impressed with how strong of just a film it is. Particularly given that it's Ben Affleck directing it, and a relatively new role for him. So yeah, was stoked to watch it. Was stoked to cover it this week.
Nice. I didn't see this in theaters, but I saw it, I think, pretty quickly when it came out on video, and I really loved it. Holy shit! Is this right? Argo won 3 Academy Awards.
Yeah,
in 2013.
Argo crushed. Movies about
Best
movies.
Picture.
Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Editing.
Yeah, Argo. I mean, movies about movies is like kind
Do
of
well at the Oscars.
Yeah, it's a shortcut.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
and the movie, like the Hollywood is like heroes, like they're like like patriotic heroes who like do the right thing. Like it's Academy voters are gonna like this kind of shit for sure.
And the Alan Arkin character is like the
So
quintessential Hollywood producer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna get it. We're definitely gonna get it. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So quick behind the scenes. So this is adapted from the '99 memoir "The Master of Disguise" by U.S. CIA operative Tony Mendez. And there was actually a Wired article in 2007, "The Great Escape: How the CIA Used a Fake Sci-Fi Flick to Rescue Americans from Tehran," written by Joshua Berman. So this is as it's called in the biz, the Canadian Caper. And it was set up by Affleck and Clooney as the producers for this. And this is interesting to me. In April of 2016, Vice revealed that the CIA's public relation arm was involved in the production of this movie.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit.
We go to comment to Ben Rhodes.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well,
Tell us about it. How does this work?
The CIA has a very sophisticated arm that deals with Hollywood, and they have a long history of being truly excellent at getting the CIA's version out through film and television. The example,
Dark 30.
So I was going to. That's the example. So I got to know this a bit during Zero Dark 30 because Mark Bowl, who's become a friend of mine, was the screenwriter on that, and he spent a lot of time at the CIA and very little time at the White House. He came over for one meeting to ask us some questions, and that movie is, let's just say, entirely the CIA's perspective on the Bin Laden operation. Right. And the CIA deserves a lot of credit for finding Bin Laden, and this is not to diminish it, but they also kind of tucked in that waterboarding was necessary because it got us the information that led to Bin Laden. Very dubious claim.
Right.
Like basically there's thousands of bits of information, and and then also I love the fact that the entire White House staff that worked on the Bin Laden operation was kind of reduced to one
person,
sniveling bureaucrat who you hated, who just was causing problems and needed to get out of the way. So knowing that, when I saw Argo, look, it's not to diminish Tony Mendez, but the State Department are a bunch of sniveling bureaucrats.
Sucks. Yeah.
They suck. They have stupid ideas. Hamilton Jordan, the Carter White House Chief of Staff, is kind of this blundering political hack. It's very much the CIA worldview. By the way, they also cranked up, the bravery, the idea that they were being chased on the tarmac by IRGC guys with guns. So the CIA is very good at not only do they tell the story of the best version of the CIA, but they settle scores, with the State Department, with the White House, with the Iranians.
Do you guys have do you have a 4th of July softball game, state versus CIA? Do you guys ever settle the score on the field or?
No, but the CIA has a Christmas party every year that you always want to get invited to. It's at Langley, and there's a heavy drinking at this party, and it's in the lobby of the CIA, and that's kind of where everybody. Well, they should play Lemaire, but it's where everybody goes to just kind of make sure you're kind of keeping your relationships
relevant.
Good over there. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's great.
Sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
No, it's great. I love the fact that the CIA is like we're going to use Hollywood not just to advance like American interests, but specifically our interests. We're going to make sure we're going to make sure that like our version of like our view on the military industrial complex is the dominant one in American culture. Seems good.
There's a lot of origin stories too, by the way. Like the CIA, back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, they would fund music.
Yep.
They would fund music festivals. They funded magazines, literary journals, movies. Like they were in the entertainment business big time. A lot of that got kind of wound down with the kind of reforms of the 70s, but they definitely kept the connective tissue to Hollywood. And in fact, the Goodman character, the John Goodman character, who's the person who helps design disguises, and that guy was a CIA asset. You know, that's a real story. That was Mendez's into Hollywood. So the relationships, you know, they persist. And a lot, as you know, I mean, I'm out here in LA now. There are a lot of ex-CIA, ex-Special Forces who come out here and make a whole second living being consultants on movies and television shows. I mean, that's very normal.
Yeah.
Well, we thought the guy in House of Dynamite who was kind of like like the schlubby Ben Rhodes, we didn't think he held.
No,
up
I
to
think
you,
the
but...
NSC in general, Ben, doesn't get portrayed very favorably in movies. The NSC is usually like the bullshit
you need a budget.
bureaucracy that's like keeping like the military or the intelligence community
reining them in. I've come to terms with it. I love Catherine Bigelow, and I saw House of Dynamite, and there's a young Deputy National Security Advisor who bore a striking resemblance to me in terms of their age profile and and kind of being this kind of smart person who hadn't actually been in the military and stuff. So I've learned to accept it. You know, it is what it is.
It's what it is. The budget.
There's not enough movies about the presidential tweet guys, Ben. That's the important thing. There needs to be more. There needs to
Dan
be more.
Scavino. They could do one about that. I'd watch a movie about Dan Scavino.
I'm very concerned that Dan Scavino is going to be the
one
only representation of presidential tweet guys for the rest of all time. Dan Scavino, incidentally, Ben, I don't know if you noticed, like the photos that they released where Trump was overseeing the start of the Iran war from Mar-a-Lago in like the skiff tent that they sent up there or whatever. Dan Scavino is in the fucking room for
I saw that. I noticed that.
Amazing glow up for presidential tweet guys.
Yeah.
Jesus. The budget for this film was $45 million worldwide, $232 million. Yeah, it definitely worked. Also in the box office, August of 2012, The Dark Knight Rises, The Bourne Legacy, The Amazing Spider-Man, Brave, Moonrise Kingdom,
all right,
Magic Mike, and The Avengers.
Not too bad. A pretty good year.
Bad.
Yeah.
A little super
Dark Knight Rises.
heavy, but
Dark Knight Rises is pretty tough. Like,
you have like
there are aspects of it.
Such a stick up your ass about the Dark Knight Rises. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. It's just such a recurring bit. We can ask the bot
Bane is
the
cool.
number of times you've slandered Dark Knight Rises.
Fair enough. All right, Ben, this was your pick. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with like the actual, you know, we can make fun of the liberties they took at the end with like guys being chased on the tarmac, but it is an incredibly faithful representation of the hostage crisis. Yeah, and so when they studied and at the end of the film during the credits, they show the contrast of the pictures of
side by side,
of different pieces of the story and the movie. Their recreation of what the embassy looked like in 1979 and how it was taken over is like watching a documentary with all the ability to go inside the embassy that you wouldn't have in a documentary. Their representation of the Iranian students that were doing press conferences outside, and they faithfully let them speak in their own words about America's the criminal regime, and it reminds you that the demands when they took those hostages was just return the Shah so we can give him justice, and the Carter refused to do that. The way they recreated Tehran, 1979, people hanging from cranes in the kind of post-revolutionary period, the bureaucracy of the new Iranian government, where you still had the guy running the old movie department who's now reporting to the Islamic Republic. It is an incredibly, and even actually the news is on in the background periodically. And it's contemporaneous news reports of Americans being like, we should bomb the Iranians, and you could feel the pressure on Jimmy Carter. I am struck by the fact that you could actually watch this film not knowing much at all about those events and really learn something about the embassy takeover, about the rationale for the embassy takeover, about the American public opinion backlash against Iran and Jimmy Carter. And actually, it's useful now because I have a theory of American foreign policy that America never forgives and never forgets. And when America's been humiliated, they're going to get their revenge someday. And look, we're talking here about, Cuba and Iran. Those are, and Venezuela, right? The three countries Trump has targeted. They're all countries that humiliated the United States. 79 hostage crisis, 59 Cuban revolution against a U.S.-backed dictator, Hugo Chavez kicking out the American oil companies. And this film, even though it's jingoistic and rah-rah to the CIA and stuff, it's also kind of pretty faithful to what was going on at that time from the American and Iranian perspective. So it's a sneakily sophisticated movie in that way.
That's really
the
good,
anchor.
That's really
the
good.
anchor at the very beginning of the movie, where it's like there was a democratically elected regime in Iran, and then they took the oil. And the U.S. and Britain said, fuck that, and installed the Shah. And that was what set up this entire situation.
Listen, that's what happens when you elect a Mamdani. You can't, you can't just, bring in these, democratic socialists. Say,
well, no, but they do. In 1953, Iran had a nationalist leader who was not, a cleric or anything. He was a socialist. He nationalized the oil. We do the coup. We install the Shah. And actually, one of the reasons that's so haunting to watch now is that the Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi,
Baby Shah,
is putting himself forward as the leader of Iran. There's a whole bunch of people in the Iranian diaspora who are kind of monarchists, who are huge supporters of him. And so, this movie's come back into relevance in very fascinating
ways. For reasons
ways.
I don't understand, in terms of who's paying who, one of the most outspoken opponents of Baby Shah is Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani really wants everyone to be sure to know that we're not down with Baby Shah and you should not be coming back, which is just a fascinating.
I know why.
Why
I know why. There's a group called the MEK that is another Iranian, it's a bizarre group.
They paid Bolton, too, right?
They paid Jim Jones. They pay everybody. Right. And they paid Rudy over the years a lot of money. They're basically this kind of cult that has a mysterious leader based in Europe. And they fought violently and committed acts of terrorism against the Iranian government, the Islamic Republic. And so Rudy's just in the other faction. He's just getting paid.
I love that. It's a great way to run a railroad. It's just.
But this is really important to me, the fact that I think this, because there was pushback about how Iran was portrayed in the film, and that you have some stereotypical kind of Persian stereotypes for some of the folks here. But I felt like it did really strongly anchor that the U.S. was in the wrong initially. It didn't justify what had happened or taking hostages or any of that kind of stuff, but it did give you a context that there was a reason why people were upset and why they wanted the Shah back to be able to have justice there.
This was one of my points. This was going to be one of my points too, which is that I really give a lot of credit to Affleck for, and I guess that's why maybe they won the editing award, of how much context they're able to build into the movie about about Iran and its history, without it being too much of an educational film strip or really even taking a strident political stand. I think they do, and maybe this is just because it matches my own politics that I don't feel it's political, but it's look, we're not saying what was going on in Iran was good. We're against, hanging people from cranes. We're against, murder squads roving the streets and executing people. I think the fact that they show all of that is really important. I think the fact that they show the brutality of taking hostages is really important. And what it would mean to live in a theocratic, autocratic regime is really important. But they could still say I think this, reducing it to this little clip of the Shah being asked, what about the torture? And Shah's like, well, like no one ever came to me and be like, like, should we torture this guy? It's like, I was 1 degree removed from the actual torture. I think is a really deft piece of filmmaking in terms of like, it's almost documentary filmmaking in terms of giving you a mirror of what that time and place was without doing a whole extended exposition. I think the other thing that Affleck does really well, and this is tricky, is he captures sort of the exoticism and the beauty of Iran, which is I think not often portrayed in American, in an American film. Like Tehran just seems unbelievably magical, like existing in this valley of snow-capped mountains, and it's this sprawling modern city. It's not
what's that giant sculpture that is so cool.
It's got this huge. It's got all of this public and civic art. It's not Fallujah. And I think that's very difficult to do. It's particularly difficult for Affleck to do in a movie that itself is a movie about making a movie in an exotic location. It's drawing attention to that.
I'd take it, again, I actually think Affleck was really clever because, you could say that there's some negative portrayals of Iranians, but at the same time, there's negative portrayals of the U.S., right? Because we talked about the Shah part, but there's also that Argo's this kind of sci-fi, but kind of soft porn sci-fi, right? Like the women are wearing like Leia dresses where they're like, gold, trimmed things hanging off of them and a lot of skin showing. And
that's from Flash Gordon, actually. That was one of the costumes from Flash Gordon.
From Flash Gordon, yeah. Exactly.
But so what he's getting at is
the woman, the princess in gold, that's
the
like
princess in gold,
yeah.
And so there's this kind of Orientalist, they're all exotic belly dancers over there, and
for sure.
And so you kind of see the lack of understanding of this place, and contrasted with like Jason, it's gorgeous, like the snow-capped mountains. I don't know how he did that because he's obviously not filming in Tehran, but everybody I know who's been from Tehran or been to Tehran talks about how unbelievable the city is. And again, that's relevant now because you're reminded it's a city of 10 million people that we're dropping bombs on,
right.
Yeah. So it resonates.
Amazing.
I think that, I was going to say, I think that leads to my first point, but you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, the thing that struck out me is how the fuck are people brave enough to do any of this shit, right? Like the idea of flying into Tehran, Tony Mendez, to have to do that. And the resonance, like when there's no answer on the phone and he just has to send the postcard before walking in there, was so intense. But just that idea of them having to debate, we're almost certainly going to die. There's no way we're going to be able to pull this off. Do we just give up and refuse to do it? Just the bravery on display from ordinary people, or the guys in the embassy trying to burn shit and smash shit, like how you decide when you are going to run and flee for your life versus when you are going to try and protect the assets and the state secrets.
It turns out you decided approximately 24 hours too late. But like, like they still definitely, like the one that haunts me the most is the woman who's on the phone with the DC as they're breaking in, and she's like, it's over, they're in, like that one. And like, there's like the close up of her where they're taking the glasses off her face. Like, again, it's a really remarkable bit of filmmaking. Like I think it again, like not just hype up Affleck, but to decide what to linger on in this kinetic, like, very big set piece of the invasion of the embassy, and to show like which bits they're going to linger on, like the furnace breaking down, which sets up this whole, they can put back together the shredded materials thing. And like you said, the smashing of like the lead, imprints of them being able to make visas or whatever else, like, and then the woman being captured, like all of those stuff. And like the other detail in there that like, felt to me like a bit of a fail was the guy who's like, I'm going to go out and reason with these. I'm going to go out and reason with these guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That was a tough one.
That's a one-way door, man. You can't reopen that door.
Yeah.
Every time I see that, I'm like, no.
They're not here to
They're still shredding upstairs,
Yeah.
Well, and in general, folks working at state potentially have other roles, right? Like that. There's
Yes.
that element of it, and there's lots of stuff that's happening inside any given embassy.
The Iranians, yeah, I mean, so the Iranian narrative is that every single one of them are CIA, that it's a den of spies. And that's not true. But it is also true that there are CIA people under State Department cover in embassies around the world. So the truth is gray, right? It's not the American version that everybody here is a diplomat. It's not the Iranian version that everybody here is a spy. And it kind of plays around with that a bit in ways that are pretty interesting to see. And look, I mean, this set off this question of the security at our embassies. We obviously dealt with that in Benghazi, but this comes up periodically. That it's tough to be in some of these places.
Yeah.
The other thing he plays with well is the Canadian piece, right? Because the only way that Affleck flies in is he's Canadian. He proposes as Canadian, and the movie's a bunch of Canadian actors, and there is that kind of in the day. This has come up a couple of movies we've done, guys, but in the days before technology, you could kind of get away with that. You could. There's no biometrics at the airport. There's no scanning of your eyes like the. You could forge a passport, and in some ways, I'm nostalgic for those days when you could invent an identity and not have it be busted by AI. Immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about as soon as they go out for the location shoot on the bazaar and a photograph, I'm like, oh well, it's over then. They've been you feed that into the Palantir system and they're gonna get them at the airport before they even get their tickets. That's just not possible.
Let me just hit really quick, Jason, since you've brought this up a couple times. Let's just talk about Affleck, the director here.
Sure.
So he directed Gone Baby Gone. Then he did The Town, which I think was like a big boost up for him, both as an actor and as a director. Then he teamed up with writer Chris Terrio to do this. And then he took a big break. And I'm like, he and Terrio, they had the juice. Why didn't they work together? And it turns out they did work together because Terrio wrote Argo and then Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and then Justice League. And then Terrio wrote Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Terrio, really.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Wait, can we? I want to jump in here on Affleck because one of the things that's interesting about Affleck, because I'm an Affleck fan, is that his life shows up in his movies.
Yes.
He said something interesting about Batman, which is that the reason he made Batman and Justice League is because his kids liked superhero movies. And he just wanted to be in movies that his kids liked, Right. And I kind of feel like the relationship in Argo between Affleck and his son is probably, I mean, I'm just guessing here, but is probably not too far from personal experience, right?
Right.
Because this is a guy, he had a messy divorce, Jennifer Garner, probably a bit estranged from his kids, but loves his kids. He's trying to connect with his kids through his work, right? He wants to bring his kid to the CIA medal ceremony. He gives his kid the one, storyboard from the fake movie. And so I kind of feel like Affleck famously drinks and smokes, as Tony Mendez does a lot in this movie. And so I kind of feel like this is a personal movie.
I love this.
And that's why it hits so hard, because the kind of C story, if the A story is the movie, if the A story is the hostage crisis, the B story is the movie. The C story is this guy being estranged from his kid.
Right.
And it felt very personal to me.
I agree, and it did make me think about, Ben, you sort of alluded to at the top that, when you were working at the White House, you were drinking, you were smoking a lot. I would see you because the smoker's pit was outside my basement office in the EEOB.
Wait, did you ever smoke? You ever smoke with Obama?
No, Obama actually did quit smoking in 2010, so he was out of the smokers. But I saw him smoke plenty times. But I never had the balls to light up with him.
I mean, that would be a cool hang, I would imagine. That'd be just a cool moment to sit there smoking. Okay, continue.
But I think the people who worked on and this was not true for the presidential tweet guys, but and I didn't have kids and I wasn't married at the time when I worked at the White House. But people who work in these jobs in national security, whether at the White House or elsewhere, there's just no there's no like work-life balance like that.
No, there's not. Your wife
like
is pissed at you. You're
they're
not
like
seeing your
you're
kids
gonna
as much
miss
as you should.
birthdays. You're gonna miss things all the time.
But it's literally the fate of the world hanging in the balance.
I had two consecutive. So I had in 2013. I went on my first vacation in a couple years, and as I'm on the tarmac and the plane's taking off, I get the first report of the Syrian chemical weapons attack. So I fly all the way cross country, and turned around the next day and flew back. Then the next year, I was going to Martha's Vineyard with Obama, and that's usually like his vacation, so you don't have to work much. Yeah. So I say to my wife like, hey, like you should come. We'll have a nice time at Martha's Vineyard. On the plane to Martha's Vineyard, the first beheading by ISIS of an American hostage takes place. Jesus. My wife took one look at what I was going to be doing for the next 2 weeks and turned around and flew home. I mean, so this, that's another reason it resonates for me is because like you miss vacations, you miss birthdays, you piss off your partner. So that this spoke to me,
And in real life, I was just looking like Tony Mendez was divorced in 1986 and remarried in 1991 to someone else. So, like despite the movie's like happy ending, did not work out.
And Ben said the final credit says he lives with his family. But he lives with a family in Europe.
A family. Yeah.
My next point, I want to just let's go to Hollywood 1979.
Yes.
Yeah.
Starting with, I was at the edge of my seat when the old school Warner Brothers logo popped up.
So cool.
It's so the best.
Yeah.
What about the
Designed
broken
by
Hollywood
Saul
sign?
Bass.
Broken Hollywood sign.
Hollywood sign.
All right, so this is it's completely post-apocalyptic looking for the Hollywood sign, and it was crumbling in '78. So there was a big fundraiser where celebrities sponsored letters.
Spielberg.
Alice Cooper sponsored the O for his dear friend Groucho Marx, which I just love the idea of those
they were
two
neighbors.
hanging out.
They were neighbors.
Yeah. Hugh Hefner and a bunch of others did the Y. Gene Autry paid for one of the L's. Just amazing shit.
Gene Autry really had it going on at some point.
Absolutely. Isn't that who Die Hard? Isn't that who Willis calls out? Or Roy Rogers?
Roy Rogers. Gene Autry, but Gene Autry owned the Anaheim Angels, right?
Yes.
Gene Autry, I don't know what the Gene Autry fortune, it was just from the fucking Cowboy songs. But apparently the Cowboy songs really would make you some generational wealth once upon a time. Anyway, looks fucked up, but I'm sure the cocaine was really pure at that time.
Yeah,
it seemed
it
seemed like a fun time.
It was probably much more fun. It was much more fun to make movies.
When they show up to the table read and he gets out of the big limousine and it's just naked ladies and people who are zooted out of their gourd. I'm like, oh, this seemed like probably a fun time. Probably
the music choices are great. Like when Affleck walks in, picks up the glass of wine off the thing, drains half of it, puts it down. You were like, oh, these Hollywood parties were much better in '79 than they are now.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out the production, but which line item does that come out of? How does that and how does that get tracked back to congressional oversight?
Show us the spreadsheets. That's one of our constant refrains on this show for Hollywood. Let me see where you put the table read party on the sheets and how much that costs. Yeah.
But the whole thing of setting up the production company, Alan Arkin coming in, his delivery of the summary of what the plan was freaking hilarious. It's just so great to see him. And then of course we have John Goodman, the GOAT.
Yeah.
Perfect casting, I will say. Yeah. Alan Arkin as the patriotic, over-the-hill Jewish movie producer, and John Goodman as the kind of, I make any movie that comes my way as costume design.
Right.
And I will say, Arkin is an improvement in my mind of the Dustin Hoffman character in Wag the Dog.
Yeah, agreed.
Which,
100%.
Was a similar thing.
Interesting. Wow.
He feels very accurate to me as one of these guys that, had a good early run, and then, he's becoming less relevant, but he still gets invited to all the parties. And we meet him. He's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is kind of the funeral for people in Hollywood, And this is what, he simultaneously approaches this as a production, and as like a patriotic thing that he's doing.
We're going to do it. If we're going to do it, it's going to be good, right? Like, we're going to go for it.
And everything he says is funny, you know.
It's so funny.
Argo, fuck yourself.
Argo, fuck yourself. It's not worth the shit off a buffalo nickel. Like the whole scene, like shout out to Richard Kind, who has an amazing like, sort of moment as the guy he's negotiating for the script, and he's trying to like hardball him.
Yeah.
And like that whole scene is so wonderfully written. It's great before it's just like two titans fucking going at each other. It does like, you know, living in San Francisco, which is not a particularly Jewish town. It like, at least culturally, it did like it every time I go to LA, I'm just like, it just feels so, it's like, it feels, or New York, it just feels so ridiculously Jewish to me. There's something very at home about it that I'm just like, oh, like I just love that, like it is like Yiddish is like sort of like a background language of those two places that it's not anywhere else in the world. And the degree to which Alan Arkin is just like playing into that particular stereotype is really wonderful. I absolutely love his performance in this movie. Yeah.
Really, really good. In the real world, the screenplay that was used by the CIA to create the cover story was an adaptation of Roger Zelazny's 1967 novel, Lord of Light. You ever read any of those, Jason?
No, I
or,
don't know what
or
that
Ben?
is.
No.
I don't know what a Zelazny is.
Zelazny is the guy. He did The Princess in Amber, and it's a multiversal.
Oh yes, I remember that. I never read that
thing.
either, but I heard of it.
Yeah.
Well,
but
but
sexy covers.
There's a great subtext that you guys would like, which is the whole reason that this is the cover is because Star Wars had just come out, right?
Yeah,
and so
of course, yeah.
It also captures that Hollywood energy of like, oh, this worked, so everybody's looking for a Star Wars ripoff.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
the way in which we can get the press to cover the fact that there's this movie Argo getting made is it's Star Wars in the Middle East, you know, essentially.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny when the guy asks him like 3 times, like, "What? So Argo, like the Argonauts? This is It's like, and it's clearly that's the inspiration for it.
Yeah, but he doesn't know. He doesn't care.
He doesn't know. Yeah, he doesn't.
It's good. There's kind of a callback to that, which is like he's like sort of culturally illiterate or pretends to be about certain things. Where it's like at the end, like this. It was clearly like it was a joke that was just too good on paper. They have like just a specific cut in after the op is successful for them to do like the tragedy repeats as farce. Is like the quotes backwards. Like, yeah, but who said it? It's like Marx. He's like, Groucho said that. Like it's clear that that was just too good a joke to like leave out, and they had nowhere else to put it, so they're gonna put it in as this like 2 minute, like 1 minute nothing scene. But it's delightful. Yeah.
Really good. So producer Barry Geller had tried to adapt Lord of Light. It failed. So then it got retitled Argo and was used by the CIA for this. Studio 6 that they set up was so convincing that even weeks after the rescue was complete, they had 26 scripts delivered to the address.
That's great.
Including one from Steven Spielberg.
It's amazing. Imagine like how you feel if you're like actually like pitching to a CIA front and you like find out later it was like, oh, this was that. I had a general meeting with Studio 6. It was great. They're really encouraged by what I'm doing. It's like, okay, you're pitching to Langley, unfortunately. This brings up my first point.
Go for
which Ben already sort of alluded to, which is like the long-standing relationship between the CIA and Hollywood, and there are these long-standing ties that go back to like when CIA was OSS. I think Ben covered that part well. I won't repeat it. I think what's interesting, the thing that I found interesting was the sort of unsaid part about how the American cultural industry, particularly since World War II, has been one of the primary ways in which America projects soft power around the world. Like it is a way in which we have shaped the post-World War II order. It is one of the things that I think is at risk in the collapse of that order because like those products will be viewed as like, you know, as part and parcel of, you know, fighting all these unjust wars and doing all this other bullshit, and we'll just be like, oh, it's kind of like it'll be acceptable to like not like American cultural products anymore because you're like, oh, well, I don't really want to align with that bullshit. But it has been one of the ways in which we have projected power around the globe for, you know, 70, 80 years. I think it's interesting to like think about like the contemporary parallels, which is like the national security apparatus and the intelligence community in particular having long-reaching tendrils into existing American industries. Obviously, the one that I think about now is the artificial intelligence tech industry. Yeah, where like there has been it should be said, this is not new. Like, since that time I worked at Google, the intelligence community in particular, a lot of this has been documented since, with the prison program, whatever else, the intelligence community has had like long-standing, clandestine relationships with the American tech industry. But now you're seeing this very it's now playing out in public in a way that I think historically it never has. Like, there's never been a time in which you've had kind of like the Anthropic versus Pentagon rupture play out in the front pages and in the courtroom, as like, where at its heart is this argument about what is the proper relationship between an American industry and the intelligence community that relies on it for doing its actual work. So it's an interesting moment to kind of view like the history of that relationship between the IC and industry.
Yeah, I mean, two things on that. It's a really good point, Jason. I mean, one on the movies and one on the tech industry. You kind of get your point about soft power in the scene at the airport when the IRGC guys are interrogating them, kind of smell something's off. But they kind of get distracted by how cool the movie, they have the storyboards and the guys are passing it around, and it humanizes. I also think the IRGC guys, they like movies, even if they're religious Muslims, they still like a good American movie, and so it captures that. Yeah,
that performance of Scoot McNairy in that moment is so incredible. Like, he is getting so excited about it and connecting with them in such a real way. It's just like that scene to me is completely electric.
Well, I know, and actually I got to know Farshad Farhat, he plays the lead IRGC commander, right?
Okay.
Jason, he became a big advocate for the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, crazy.
Wow.
And he was even on the board of Plowshares Fund, which was this kind of, anyway, very cool guy, very neat guy. But it sticks to your point about soft power. That now today those guys would be just as likely to be into Chinese movies or certainly Iranian movies.
Exactly.
And so that dominance of that industry is gone. And on the tech point, you just raised a really good one. I mean, I don't, as you know, Jason, I work a little bit on these issues. Like, the Europeans don't trust American tech anymore.
Right.
All you hear in Europe now is about sovereign cloud, and we don't trust this ecosystem. How many people around the world are going to be skeptical of using Claude? If one of the interests for Dario on that is, his customers don't want to be using a chatbot that's also being used to kill Iranians.
Target
and I think this is going to be an increasing issue for American tech. Is like, people might opt out because they see it as just part of the military-industrial complex,
Yeah,
because it is.
It's really interesting to compare and contrast like the relationship of tech and its role in the United States national security policy versus the role of Hollywood in the same, and like the primary difference is that tech is deeply unpopular, both domestically, like AI, people have tremendous misgivings about AI, and then, as you point out, around the world, like the Europeans are, on one part, they're jealous of not having these technologies natively. On the other hand, they're like, look, we've already done 2 decades of you just creating these transnational hegemons that get to dictate policy. We're done with that, and we don't want any more of that. That's true both from a government standpoint and from the populace. And then the global South is deeply suspicious of, is like, well, you're telling us that these technologies are so powerful that only you can control them, and we can't have access to these tools that we're being told could like provide doctors and education in societies where those are incredibly scarce resources. And they're just simply not buying that argument. The tech industry itself has done itself no favors by aligning itself so closely with an explicitly nationalist, authoritarian policymaking apparatus and saying, over and over again, we're just going to bend the knee and bow down to do, what, Donald Trump says is right and present them with gold platters and,
pay for his ballroom,
all this other stuff. It makes them look like an overt part of the national security industrial complex, which reads as bad to both the domestic and international audience. And then the Trump administration, of course, by picking this fight with Anthropic over whether or not AI should be able to be used for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance, is fighting an argument on the least credible grounds possible. because like no one thinks that those are good uses of technology. So it's really kind of killing the golden goose of American soft power in a way that will be very difficult to repair. It's not as though like with a different administration, first of all, like the politics are so bad now that the next it's basically impossible to believe that whoever gets elected president next, whether it is a Republican or a Democrat, is going to have more positive relationships with the American tech industry than what has happened previously. Both are going to need to put that industry back in a penalty box because it's so deeply political and unpopular. And then it just makes for worse policymaking because like the reality is that the United States military and the United States intelligence community need these tools like to do their job. And if they weren't fighting the argument about doing it on the worst grounds possible, they probably would have been able to carry forward.
The hard part for me is this feels like this is just a preview of the oligarchical direction that we are heading, right? Like this feels like Russia, right? Where if you get on board with Putin and if you don't ask questions and, you can make huge money, you can get those contract deals. And if you ask the wrong questions, then you end up out a window or something. And so it's really scary. Like you get so clearly the personal nature, like they hate Dario, they hate Anthropic, and they're willing to do OpenAI. It wasn't even that they cared about the principles, I think, as much that they were being restricted. It's that this was a personal vendetta against somebody who refused to bend the knee.
Like Sam Altman bent the knee. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
We have a trouble as Americans, and this applies to our Iran too. But we've gone full Putin. We've got an authoritarian president who punishes his enemies, rewards his oligarch friends, as long as the oligarch friends play by the rules. And we have trouble seeing that. Yeah, exactly. We can't see ourselves from the outside in. We're very good at looking at Iran from the outside in and telling them all the bad things about their system, which are many, right?
Right.
But we have trouble looking at ourselves from the outside in.
Yeah, and like the every day the administration reveals itself as just moving, like they don't even bother rebutting the argument about like, isn't this just about punishing your political enemies? They just make it transparently obvious of what they're doing. Again, going back to the Anthropic Pentagon fight, so Emil Michael is like, the primary spokesperson for the Pentagon who's been advancing on both on Twitter and on cable TV, the administration's position on this. He's, former Uber executive, former Clout executive. If you remember Clout, he's like, his Wikipedia page has a very long section on problematic past actions that you can review for yourself, particularly from his time at Uber. He's he's both making really bad arguments in the sense that they're bad and for American interests, but they're self-defeating and revealing what their true motivation is, because he's on with like Aaron Sorkin on CNBC and not Aaron Sorkin, Andrew Sorkin, who's asking him if Anthropic was a genuine supply chain risk and this was not part of what some people think is a political shakedown, why wouldn't you just rip Claude out of all systems immediately? If it was an actual risk, which is your contention, it's a risk on par with Huawei, like that this service is averse to American national security interests, you would need to rip it out completely on day one, because it's allowing a run roughshod through the United States government would be a bad idea. And Michael responds, they're embedded in our systems. The president says we have 6 months to replace them. Until then, we're making sure there's no way their insider threat could do anything. It's like an incoherent position. Like
I'm sure they're using Claude in Iran
today.
So
of course they are.
Oh yeah.
One second, I have to grab a battery real quick so my computer doesn't die. Just 1 second.
Go for it. I'm down to honorable mentions. That's all.
I've got one more.
Okay. Let's see if Ben's got one more, and then you can do one more.
Yeah.
And then we'll do menchies, and then we'll see if Ben wants to stick around for voicemails.
All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Plug in. All right.
Ben, another terrible Twitter suggestion for the resolving the Strait of Hormuz situation I just saw is that if we could just raise sea levels by 150 meters, you get a backup Strait of Hormuz, because the desert of Oman will be underwater. So
Jason, is this what you thought when you were working at Twitter all those years ago?
Yeah. I mean, the only, like when I worked at, I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but like I worked at Twitter when it was the Iran. My Iran Twitter story was it was during the Iranian protests of 2009 where Twitter was where the Green Revolution,
the good guys, connecting
the good
everybody.
guys. And like State Department was contacting us to be like, oh, you guys absolutely need to stay up and don't take this downtime. And our position in 2009 was, we do not understand Iranian politics. Like, we are not going to we are not going to say that we've assessed the situation and have a clear view on who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Like, that is not going to be a place where we're saying like, yes, and we believe we are instrumental in leading the charge of democracy. That feels like a dangerous place for us to be.
Yes.
Which, I think proved to be correct.
Yeah. Good job.
All right.
Good job. Ben, what is your last point on Argo?
I just want to extend. I talked about the political accuracy and salience. Let's just talk about the 1979. How enjoyable it is to be in 1979.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done that on politics. We've done that on Hollywood. Let me throw in just at random. The Swiss Air flight at the end when they're popping champagne and smoking cigs on the plane.
Yeah.
The amazing music, like when they're partying for the last night at the Canadian ambassador's place and they're playing When the Levee Breaks by Zeppelin, and you realize that had just come out like recently,
right?
A few years ago.
Right.
The clothes, like Affleck's clothes, are just awesome. Like these kind of knit jackets, They took such even the hair, like Hamilton Jordan's got the great haircut. Like they took such attention to detail in putting you back in this time period.
What about the kid's bedroom, man? Like the toys. The toys were so good. Like the Kenner action figures and stuff.
I just love a movie that takes you back to like some time, like very comprehensively. You always feel like you're in 79.
It does the period incredibly well. I love the ascot.
We've done a lot of periods with you, man. We have Tinker Tailor and 3 Days. Like we're really in the 70s. We're living there.
By the way, another 70s thing is that connects it to the CIA story that we were talking about. There is no way that this story wouldn't leak today.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's pretty remarkable that they kept this secret. They invented the story that it was all the Canadians. Thank you, Canada. This would leak like within a week. In this day and age, just people were more willing to button up. There was less, braggadocio out of the CIA, or at least delayed. And so that felt 79 too. I loved how Affleck nailed the time period so fully, and they must have spent some time on that.
Did the story hold until 97 when it was declassified? Is that accurate? Like no one.
Yeah, Clinton declassified it.
That was when people found out. That's crazy.
20 years.
I think it was in part because in the 90s, Iran has periodically, despite what all my haters online say, they have actually periodically had presidents who were more moderate.
Right.
Now, not always the case. So, like Ali Khamenei, who was just killed, the supreme leader, he was the first president of Iran under Ayatollah Khomeini. Right. But in the 90s, they elected this moderate president named Khatami, who made a big show of wanting like détente with the United States. And it was because of that Clinton declassified this. Clinton's like, now we have a guy that is trying to turn the page a bit, and so that kind of gave an opening to declassify this without causing some huge international incident.
That's great.
I like it. Jason, your last point.
I would not have made it through the airport. I just want to be. If I was one of the hostages, I would have been asked to be sent to the embassy. I would have been asked to be sent to one of the embassy. I was like, I'm out. I have become such a nervous traveler as I approach 50 years old and traveling with kids. I'm like definitely like sort of full dad. Like, have to make sure the passports are secured at all times, and like very concerned about like getting to the gate on time, making sure that all the bathroom breaks have been taken care of, and like I also like. I'm always convinced that like something is going to go wrong at immigration for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's stressful.
When they go to the bazaar, like driving, internationally is always scary. Driving through a raging protest, not good.
So I have a good story on this, which is when I was doing secret negotiations with the Cubans, with Alejandro Castro, who's Raul Castro's son. Most of the meetings, probably 12 meetings, were in Canada, and the Canadians just handled that. I'd land at the airport. They'd literally meet me kind of like coming off the gate, quietly escort me, and I didn't have to go through immigration. The first time we had to meet in another country, the Canadians couldn't host us for some reason. So we met the Cubans in Trinidad, and I don't remember why. I think I had like multiple passports, right? I had a diplomatic passport. And I was traveling on my diplomatic passport, which was stupid in retrospect. I should have just traveled. So when I got to immigration, the guy's like, well, what are you doing here? And I was like,
secret negotiation.
and I was like, we're preparing for like a conference. Yeah. And he's like, what conference? And I was like, some meetings that we're going to have in a few months. And he asked, like, he wasn't like hostile, but I was beginning to break, and thankfully he's finally like, fuck it, go ahead, it's Trinidad, we're pretty laid back.
Trinidad,
but I almost
immigration guy broke you.
To Jason's point, I would not have made a good spy because I was like, conference,
Oh my God, that's
amazing. Yeah, but it's just like, it's so stressful. Like for the tickets not being there, that's like a nightmare just for me in general. The tickets aren't going to be there, and then they got to go through and deal with they don't have the white slips, and then they got like the IRGC guy who's like literally not having their shit, and it's just like okay, like this, you guys are up to something. He's yelling at them in Farsi, like it's just a tough time. I love that little detail that he actually speaks English, but is just going to yell at them in Farsi. As a display of strength and intimidation. Really tough. Stressed me out. I watched the movie twice, and both times I had to like look away during the whole airport sequence because I was like, oh, this isn't good.
Well, I want to shout out, through that sequence, I mentioned it already, Scoot McNairy, but also his wife is played by Carrie Bechet, and they together played husband and wife on the absolutely incredible TV show Halt and Catch Fire.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which everyone should watch.
Oh, yeah.
They're the third and fourth build on that show after Lee Pace and Mackenzie Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Who were incredible.
They're great.
And the two of them become two of the best parts of the entire show. It's really, really fantastic.
If I had to be exfilled in a situation like this, they would have to do it like they did with those kids in the Thai cave, where they like put them on, they like sedate them. Yeah, they like completely sedate them so they don't freak out underwater. That's what I would need.
Yeah,
I would need to be propofol out of Tehran.
Yes.
In order to make it out. Or at least heavily Xanaxed, like Xanax to my gills.
I just have two quick honorable mentions. The first one is, goddamn, the journey of the house cleaner is so good.
Oh,
yes. Thank you. I was gonna say this is my honorable mention.
Yeah.
Please go.
So Sahar, great Iranian name, by the way. I have a number of Persian friends who named Sahar. But so the housekeeper figures it out, could rat them out, starts to get intimidated. There's guys coming to the gate, sisters, anything going on there. And then at the end,
that scene is amazing, by the way. Like her at the gate.
When she's like, and it's so beautifully contrasted. And again, this is why I push back on Affleck somehow being, derogatory. Quite the opposite. The white people, as much as we feel bad for what they went through, they're on a Swiss Air flight. Yeah. They're popping champagne.
She's going
they're
to
going to come
Iraq.
home. She's going to fucking
gassed.
Basra, right? So the Shia live in southern Iraq, and she's crossing like on foot at some crowded border crossing where Shia are just trying to escape the Islamic Republic and get into Iraq. And the guy stamps her passport, welcome to Iraq. And she is walking into what the fuck kind of life
knows?
Is it? She had this nice cushy job at the Canadian ambassador's residence. She is the secret hero of the whole fucking movie.
Yeah,
she could have blown the whole op. She could have ratted them out to the IRGC, become a hero in Iran.
Should have.
And instead,
by any objective reason.
By the way, these semi-obnoxious Americans are just drinking and making a lot of noise. She saves their life. And for what? So she can go be a destitute single woman in southern Iraq right before the Iran-Iraq war, by the way.
Right before the war,
Yeah.
like months
So,
before
I mean,
the war happens.
Sahar like should get the ultimate
MVP.
honorable mention here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's basically crossing into what will be in months the worst place on earth. It's
The worst place on earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing. I love the fact that they take the time for her.
Yeah.
The
They took
other
the time for that,
shout
yeah.
the other shout out for the other GOAT. I love my man Jimmy Carter. So
Yep.
nice to
Voiceover at
great.
the end.
Yes, the voiceover at the end is great, but I mean, just what's your take, Ben, on his ultimate legacy? I know he oftentimes gets short shrift, but he seems like one of the most principled and thoughtful presidents that we've had in my lifetime, and I don't think he gets enough credit.
I think that's right. There's a great book called Reaganland that's about the Carter presidency, and it's about the rise of Reagan, but it's really about Carter. And first of all, he was just kind of fucked because most of the bad things that happened while he was president that he gets blamed for, like, were structural, right? Like inflation was high. And actually, Carter took the steps that ended up lowering inflation under Reagan, but obviously didn't get credit for it.
Volcker, right? Did that?
Yeah, Volcker did that. Carter's appointee. The energy crisis that he gets all this shit for has roots in the 1973 Arab oil embargo and shortages. So, number one, he kind of got blamed for a bunch of stuff that was a bit beyond his control as president. But the other
Reagan
thing is
was negotiating with the Iranians secretly to keep the hostages.
Yes, to get the hostages out, which is outrageous.
This is explicitly illegal.
I mean, they were
That's their
released
move.
on Inauguration Day.
I remember.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I'd say is that at a time in which we have, let's just say, not come to expect a lot in the character of our presidents, to have a guy that was just fundamentally a decent human being that, he could be prickly and stuff. He's not a saint, but he had a moral compass and even what he says at the end, like, I could have gotten all the credit.
Divested his peanut farm.
Divested his peanut farm. I mean, we are due for like a Jimmy Carter type figure to come along and restore a little fucking
I don't know,
character
Ben.
to
I don't know
government.
if that's what the cards are pointing towards, because let me put together this scenario. We're dealing with an oil crisis. We're dealing with conflict with Iran. We're dealing with the beginnings of stagflation. And a governor from California rises. I think we're repeating history, but 4 years past.
Hopefully better.
That's true. That is true.
Oh man, we are gonna see.
And Hamilton Jordan is a great B character in this film too. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was Carter's guy in Georgia. He ran the Carter campaign brilliantly. Becomes White House chief of staff. And I like living a bit with Hamilton Jordan in this movie. I love the gimmick that the only way they can get him on the phone is by pretending like they're calling from his kid's school.
Right,
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Right.
Yeah, that's fucked up, but it's smart.
This reminds me of a question we got submitted during the live stream, which was, Ben, if you could tell one person of the Obama administration, Argo, fuck yourself, who would it be? I thought of it because look, Dennis McDonough is my favorite boss I've ever had, but it would definitely be to Dennis, just because I think he would appreciate it. I think he would think it was funny.
He would definitely think it's funny.
I think he
yeah.
would think
Well,
it's funny.
in the same way, and it is not because I dislike him, but Rahm Emanuel would have been a fun guy to
exactly.
say Argo
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
yourself too. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There are a lot of haters, as you know, Jason, who oppose the Iran nuclear deal and who advocated for bombing Iran and having a regime change war for the last 15 years. And right now, I'd like to tell them all, Argo fuck yourself. So they weren't in the Obama administration, but let's just
Special
say
honorable
that.
mention for that.
All the people on Twitter have been, agitating for this war for all this time,
As I like to mention, I did exceptionally little on the Iran nuclear deal, but I got to go to the pizza party.
You did, because you deputized Tanya
I
Somanader,
deputized Tanya,
who
That was my
did the
job.
single greatest tweet of the Obama years. I remember I was actually on vacation, and it was the summer, August, when we were fighting the battle, and we created for the first time a Twitter account at Iran nuclear deal, and we used that to kind of fact check everybody and advocate for the deal.
Yeah.
And Tanya got in some trouble because she tweeted out the graphic of the NWA album Straight Outta Compton, but she changed it to Straight Outta Uranium.
Yeah.
Wow.
And some like pearl clutchers were like, that's not appropriate, and so she was
It's
super
amazing
nervous.
to think about that as like
Simple
Compared to
times.
Scavino,
Or
and
what
I
the-
remember. Well, I called her and I said, keep doing it. You know,
Yeah.
I love the energy. Like, you know, if
Yeah.
every now and then you get dinged, it's fine. Like, that was great energy.
It's I mean the White House is using unlicensed like movie clips like you know and like sports clips to like proclaim like their military prowess in a war in which they've killed 170 children. So you know it's going great. It's going
Choices are being made. Ben, do you have like 15, 20 minutes left to do voicemails, or do you need to jump?
I can do a few minutes. I got to jump in like 5-10 minutes.
Okay, if
I
it's
sang at
5:10,
noon. I'm saying at noon, so.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and let you go then, because I think it's going to probably be at least 15.
Well, this was great.
So
Wait, do we do Tilda Swinton though?
Oh yeah, we got to do Tilda. Good call.
Guys, that brings us to our final question: who would Tilda Swinton play?
I mean,
All right.
Ben goes first.
I would kind of love to see her play the Bryan Cranston CIA figure.
That's a good one.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
Mendez's boss, who's kind of running interference for him. Because I could just Tilda as a bureaucratic infighter with a smile could be good. I mean, she could all. I mean, as usual with Tilda, she could play. I mean, she could play fucking Tony Mendez. I'd watch it. I mean, it wouldn't be as good as Affleck, you know, because it's so personal. Affleck. She could also, you know, Tilda as. Well, I don't know. Arkin's too perfect, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bryan Cranston role. I think.
That's great.
I like it. Jason?
Small shot, not in the movie. Ayatollah Khomeini. She.
Ooh.
I like
It's
it.
like in like maybe in the Mike Wallace interview or whatever. It's like, you know, I don't mean to insult you, but he's called you an insane person, and it cuts it. It's Tilda.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm not going to top that one.
I really did like, you know, a detail I did like, Ben, like just again to the complicated, nuanced politics of the movie, is I'll make two final points here in the post Tilda segment. One is I think the degree to which they were showing these young women students doing the spokesperson
Really cool.
stuff was very interesting.
Yeah.
And like that's like a detail of Iranian history I did not know, and like the role of students.
And it's true. It's true.
I also think through a contemporary lens, and I don't mean this like super provocatively, I mean only moderate provocatively, but I think like leftist student movements like domestically often like sometimes like it reminded me of like current current dynamics as well.
Anti-imperialism, socialist, yeah.
So I think that was interesting. The other point I just want to bring up on my whole rant about tech bending the knee to the government. One of the most interesting figures in this current era who like gets a lot of attention. There's a whole book written about him. It's like, it's not as though he's unknown, but like gets less attention than your like Sam Altman's and you know, some of your other titans of industry is Alex Karp from Palantir, just because his personal biography is so interesting. Like, you know, he's a biracial kid from Philadelphia. He's half black. He's half Jewish. He studied, you know, he's a liberal arts guy. He's not a technologist. He goes and studies, you know, political philosophy in Germany. He's like, this is not the case of like an Elon where it's just someone who hasn't read the books. He's read all of the books. Like he's read all of the books, and he comes from a leftist.
He used to have my politics.
Like probably to the left of your politics. Like comes from like a critical theory, like, you know, very like leftist tradition, and is incredibly well read in it. It's not like a pose. And then because I think essentially because of, you know, during the Biden years, he becomes convinced that Jews are going to be at risk in America if we do not become immigration hawks, because like they will, like the American right, the American nationalist, you know, nationalist movement will eventually blame Jews as being the other if we don't like give them a plausible other, is at least the shorthand I've been given, becomes like full on in for for Trump specifically because of immigration. I find
that's
that
like 5D. That's like crazy 5D chess.
It's such a remarkable piece of motivated reasoning. It really stands out in like the Hall of Fame of motivated reasoning, because it's not someone who has not read the books. He's read the books. He understands the history of how you get to this moment. And he was on, not to, like, there's a lot of quoting CNBC on this episode today. I don't know why that's true, but he was on CNBC today as well, and he was being asked about his support for Trump's Iran war, and he said, "I don't really believe in the wars we fought in the past because I don't believe in regime change, period." And that's one of the reasons why I'm supportive of this policy we currently have. Like, it's just a crazy pair of sentences to come from someone who, again, is not an idiot. Like, he's not like, this is not a case of someone who like does not possess the intellectual, like, historical capacity to understand what he is saying. He's not like a Twitter observing the situation guy. Like, he has worked himself into this corner where that is somehow an intellectually consistent set of sentences to utter in public on TV. And it's just a remarkable state of affairs that we find ourselves in.
I'd love to do like a 2-hour podcast with you on Alex Karp, because I similarly have gone down a rabbit hole. But what I'd say too is that he strikes me as the kind of guy that started making billions of dollars and liked how that felt. Yeah. Wants to truly believe that what he's doing is, not just being rewarded because of, money, but because it's somehow virtuous. And so he's taken a pretty nimble brain and he's 100% using it to rationalize why what he's doing is correct. Like, I'm not sure that whether it matters if he believes his narrative or not. Yeah. Because his narrative is fucking insane. Because I've read the same stuff you have, I think, Jason. The narrative is essentially, number one, the great replacement theory is that Jews are importing black and brown immigrants to replace white people. And so therefore I need to keep out the immigrants so that the Jews don't get blamed for the immigration. Yeah. Then he added a post-October 7th layer to that, which is essentially Israel can do no wrong. Right. And so, and I'm going to take umbrage to any young leftist who he would have probably been, that is against what Israel did in Gaza, or what they're doing now in Lebanon or Iran. But it's just somebody like desperately rationalizing. They can't just come out and say like I want to make a lot of money. They have to insist that they're right. And I heard an interview with him, Jason, where the craziest thing I heard him say is that if they come for somebody, I will be the first one. If you heard this, that I am the most vulnerable person in society because I'm Jewish and interracial. And that's just not true. Like there are so much more vulnerable people than Alex Karp. Yeah. And especially the people getting deported by ICE with his technologies. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he can look himself in the mirror and believe that he is the most vulnerable human being in this day and age is insane to me. But it's such a tech mentality, That is both, we're the victim. Sam Altman's the victim. Alex Karp is the victim,
It is both insane to think that, for him to think that he's the most vulnerable. It is equally at the same time insane for him to believe that the white nationalist movement to which he's aligned himself is ever going to accept Jews as heritage Americans.
That's
right. Like, let me tell you definitively, my guy, when J.D. Vance goes to the Claremont Institute and talks about like how he has more of a right to be an American because his ancestors are buried in a field of Confederate soldiers than people who have come more recently, there is no place in that thinking for Jews. I will guarantee you, no matter how white you think Jews have become in this country, and like by a large measure, we've become more white than we were 100 years ago. The degree to which we will be othered by a white nationalist movement that has long-standing antipathies to Jews in general, let alone in the current context of an Israel that they view as controlling United States foreign policy and treasure. We are going to be othered so fucking fast it will make your head spin, and it doesn't matter how many people you deported before that happens. So the idea that you've come up with some fail-safe position that is going to protect you, again, you've read the fucking books. Like, go back and read them again. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Maybe the way to defeat, rising nationalism is to actually defeat rising nationalism.
Yes, what a novel idea.
And the people are turning against it. Yeah, exactly. They're just 1 degree chess. Like, actually just go fucking win. Jesus Christ! Oh my God!
I'm glad we got that. I'm glad we got that in at the end. We could do further.
It's more, we could do a further continued, man.
Episode.
To be continued.
Me too.
One last thing for me is if people like this story. A great book is Guests of the Ayatollah by Mark Bowden. Mark Bowden, great writer. The guy who wrote Black Hawk Down. It's a brilliantly reported recreation of the entire hostage crisis, from the experience of the hostages themselves to Jimmy Carter to the failed Desert One rescue mission. Anyway, if you want any more, if Argo left you with a taste in your mouth,
I did.
check out Guess What I Told.
All right, I'm gonna read that.
You're the first person to plug a book. You must have just come from Ezra's pod.
It's a page turner, man. Yeah. It is a page turner.
Amazing. All right. Well, what else do you have to plug, Ben? Where can the folks?
He's got the
listen to you?
Substack. Tell us where people can tell them.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I have a book coming out, so
Yes.
available for
At
pre-order
last.
now. All
Yay.
We Say: The Battle for American Identity. It's a history of the United States and the argument we've been having, told through 15 speeches. The prologue, Jason, actually begins with J.D. Vance's speech at the Claremont
amazing.
Institute.
What a
'Cause the whole
setup!
thesis
What a
of my
setup
book
for
is
me.
well, so the whole thesis of my book is that J.D. Vance is wrong, but that we've been having an argument from the beginning between the J.D. Vance view, which is it's a white Christian nation rooted in heritage, versus the kind of the sentence in the Declaration of Independence that he takes issue with: all men are created equal. So that's my book. Substack, notes on the stories we tell. Still workshopping the title, but it's I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's free. And Pod Save the World. That's where I'm at.
Awesome.
I pre-ordered the book during this podcast.
Awesome. There you go.
Nice.
I appreciate that. You'll like it. Yeah, you'll like the
very
J.D.
excited.
Vance thing. Sets it all up.
Are you going to do the audiobook yourself? Is that how that works? What is
I'm recording it next week, actually.
Oh, exciting.
Where are you recording? Where do you go? Where are you recording?
There's a place in Santa Monica on Lincoln Boulevard that's like, a few minutes from my house.
Have you done that
And what do
before
they
for
tell
your
you? How
previous
long does it
books?
take?
Yeah, we're very interested in this part.
I did it. The funny thing is, I read my last one and they're like, it takes a while, it's hard. But I've actually done a lot of voiceover stuff for podcasting. And so I kind of just go in and I do it in a week. I just sit there and read it. And I kind of like it. It's a good way to like relive the book you wrote over 4 years.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Well, we are thrilled to see you, Ben, and cannot wait for your next appearance already.
Yeah,
I know.
hopefully-
So many things to do.
I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that you pinged me to do this. It's so we don't get to do timely stuff as often as I would like, and this is a great.
Yeah, this is certainly timely. So it's great.
And
Great
listen,
seeing you guys.
Listen, we may have bought ourselves a little bit of time by covering The Shining, but the Film Bros have also contacted us about There Will Be Blood. If we get to 350 before that's covered, like we're screwed. So like let's get you back.
We'll
for
find
that.
you. We'll find you. Another
I'm a
spot.
PTA guy. I'm a Kubrick guy. I don't know if you guys did an Oppenheimer. That's another good national
We
security
haven't.
one to do.
That's a
Yeah.
really good one. That would be a great
Wow.
one.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer would be a good one. Hopefully, we
Great
don't have
book.
reason
Great
to
book,
cover
too.
it before.
yeah. Hopefully it's
I
not
mean,
timely.
like,
Yeah.
it feels like this is a Tim Miller insight, but like it feels like like Trump like on his way like sort of to the other side is just going to be like once something that no other president has done. It's just like someone's going to tell him that, and like he's
Tim,
going to think
please.
it's a really good idea. Yeah,
We
I
could
don't
do a
know.
whole Oppenheimer one though, Jason. That it is with AI as the current context.
Yes,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
100%.
Sam Altman as Oppenheimer.
Sam Altman and Oppenheimer share a birthday.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's scary. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, let me hit stop. To quote you, Jesus Christ.
That was great.
What an
What an
interview.
episode.
Holy shit, my God.
Yeah, it was really good.
That was really, really good. How about we do
Loved it.
some quick letters?
Letters.
All right. I remembered myself that our first letter is from...
Hello, Bogpod. Hey, Bogpod. Hello, Bogpod. Hey, Bogpod. Hello, Bogpod. Hey, Bogpod. Bogpod.
Oh yeah, I would totally forgotten.
Pod. All right, here we go. Ethan says, "Hello, folks. I am someone cognizant of my own aspirations in the film industry, so I try not to hate on people too conspicuously because it feels like bad luck. And I received a cease and desist from Adrian Brody. As such, I will be posting a completely hypothetical question to you guys that is totally unrelated to Argo or its cast and crew. If you were given the opportunity to relinquish someone of their Oscar as punishment for later crimes against cinema, who would it be and why?"
That's a really good question.
Purely hypothetical, of course. I don't even know what movie you're covering. Just forgot. Batman and Robin? Pretty sure it's Batman and Robin. Lots of love, Ethan.
That's a really good question, don't you think?
Is this an Affleck slam? Is this a Batfleck slam as opposed to the...
I guess
Ethan
it is
has
a Batfleck slam. I mean, I listen. I'm not that. I think we covered why people make movies for their kids. I think that's understandable.
I didn't want to correct Ben in the moment, but Ben Affleck is a notoriously huge comic fan. Like when he was originally approached to do Daredevil, he said he couldn't do it because he didn't have red hair. That's how big of a comics fan he was. So he is probably the best part of all of Zack Snyder's bullshit that he did. I thought his performance as Bruce Wayne in Batman was great. It's all dog shit.
Yeah.
Like Dark Knight Rises, same thing.
I'm trying to think of like good crimes. I mean, unfortunately, the Coen brothers are dead, and so it's not as though they committed crimes.
They're not doing anything bad. They're just like they're trying to figure their way.
They're trying to figure their way. They're just lost at sea. I feel bad for them.
I don't need to cancel anybody's Oscar. It's fine.
Can we cancel Crash's Oscar? Like the movie Crash? I mean, Crash and like Green Book, right?
Somebody posted that Crash. Somebody posted a Crash tweet, and I was like, I had.
It was Van Lathan.
Oh, okay.
He had a really good. Good one. And people are like, "Why do people hate on Crash?" He's like, "Well, this is a movie where a black woman is assaulted by a white police officer in front of her husband. They then have marital problems because the husband was emasculated while his wife was sexually assaulted. Later, she is rescued by the same white cop, and they hug. This seems to overlook the fact that she was sexually assaulted. That part is tough."
But it looks really good. The cinematography and stuff. This is like Inarritu, I think, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, not coming soon on Escape Hatch. Here is our next letter.
Baby, this is Lizen.
Lizen, here we go.
Hi, friends. This is Lizen. So I had to rush back from my semi-hiatus to hype up that Ben Rhodes is on the pod again.
Yes.
I'm so excited to listen to this episode. It's always a banger when Ben is on, and what a time in our history to hear about this film discussed. By centering institutional male heroism, Argo highlights how women's roles in geopolitical crises often go unseen or unrecorded. And the housekeeper's courageous act is silence, a very quiet, protective form of bravery. Thank you. XOXO, Lizen.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm glad we got a chance to talk about the housekeeper. It really is a tremendous. I mean, like in a lesser movie would have been cut, and is really great.
Really, really good. I thought that was very, very important. Lizen, great to hear from you.
Great to hear from Lizen.
Yeah, we love you so much. Thank you for being here. Here is our next voicemail.
This is your brother, Animal Mother.
All right, Animal Mother.
Mr. President, the hostages. It is imperative that you act now. That's it, men. We're going in. Our rescue mission was underway, but two things kept running through my mind. Would we get to the men in time, and why did I bring helium instead of air?
Hello, animal friends and animal lovers. Due to the sudden explosive departure of the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, we're all now contemplating a future as Mad Max gasoline-starved mutants. All due respect to Tina Turner, we are in fact in need of another hero. Good thing our boy Ben Affleck is wicked smart. Enter the 79 Iran hostage crisis, when Canadian decency had the CIA switching hobbies from puppeteering to improv. Tony Mendes, the spook willing to break a leg or die trying, summons the dark forces of Hollywood, faking a space opera for an escape operation. It's such a fun story that it deserved to be declassified for our amusement, and for Ben to do what he does best: direct a fine movie and sigh dejectedly. Long live our mopey road warrior. The bullshit business, it's like coal mining. Please share a creative way in which you extracted yourself from a hairy situation. Thank you all. See you at the table read. Keep the change, filthy animals.
I do love the scene when Affleck wakes up in the morning on the day that they're gonna leave, and he's just like, there's just like a long tracking shot of him being resolved, like looking into the middle distance or whatever, of like, all right, we're gonna fucking do this thing.
I couldn't tell if he slept. Like, I couldn't tell if he literally just.
I don't know if that guy
up.
sleeps. I don't know if that guy sleeps at all.
Seems tough.
I do love that. I love that.
All right, extraction situations. This is a good one.
I once, when there was an earthquake in, like up near Jenner on the Sonoma coast, and there was briefly there's an earthquake in like out at sea, and there was a tsunami warning in San Francisco. It was like the first tsunami warning in like any time I've ever lived here. But like, oh shit, like really there might be a tsunami. And they like our school, Juniper's school is down by the bay. Griffin's like, like not in a low-lying area of San Francisco, but Juniper's is like right near the water's edge basically. And like the school was like sending very kind of confusing messages because no one knew what was going on, but they were like, yeah, like we think it's fine. Although now we've been told to shelter in place, but yeah, no need to worry. Like, we'll see what happens. And I was just like, fuck this. And like, just
this
drove.
This is like 11:45 in the morning.
Yeah. And I was just like, all right, we're gonna fucking, I was at a barber shop. I was like, nope, we're going to get the 3-year-old. Like, we're driving out there. We're going to just swoop her up. And she talks about it to this day. She was like, Dad, you remember when you rescued me from the tsunami? I was like, that's right. I rescued you from the tsunami. That didn't hit, but still, I did it.
So I also was at the barber, but in Corte Madera, when I got the call that my niece needed to be picked up before the tsunami hit Mill Valley.
Right.
And so I jumped in the car and I drove to Mill Valley. I sped over there and I walked in the door. I had never picked up my niece from daycare before. This was a new thing. So like for her to suddenly go with me, taking
she was
her
like,
out
what
of
the
there,
fuck is going on? Who's this man abducting me?
No, she was freaking out. And I managed to like get mom on her, April's sister on voice, video text, to be able to walk her down. But I load her in the car and we're driving out of Mill Valley and it's literally right down where the water is. And so I was very like, as it was saying, the water is supposed to hit any minute. So it was a very nerve wracking and there was tons of traffic as other people were doing the same, but it never came.
It was a stressful day.
Stressful day, but we got through it. Thank you so much, Animal Mother, for reminding us of that. Here is our next voicemail. Mr. Java. I cannot wait to hear.
We thank the Conoco Group and the Rand Corporation for their generous support. And now, an excerpt from the Royal Shakespeare Archives.
Good people, if we are marked to fail, then we have lost nothing we did not already risk on the day the embassy failed. But if we succeed, our story shall be told for years to come. For you who stand here today, far from home, hunted in a city that would gladly see you taken, remember this moment. For tomorrow, we do not walk out as diplomats. We walk out as actors. They shall remember this day, wherever free people gather, that we faced it together, and we made a movie. Acting!
This concludes our broadcast day, but we ask you, gentle listener, to please reflect on what your greatest acting role has been, both in life and perhaps on the stage. Acting.
That's great.
Listen.
That's wild.
I love it. I love
An
it.
evolution.
I love a little radio play.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you?
We have some radio play coming next week. Get ready.
Okay.
Remember you recorded some dialogue for that? I recorded some
it's finally
dialogue for
coming.
that. It's coming next week.
Excuse me. That's great.
Part of episode 300. Yeah, that's going to be quite exciting. What is my greatest performance on on stage. I mean, we've talked about it. Mr. Mainland. Yeah, that was kind of like the high water mark for me. That was as good. I think that was as good as it got. Either that or, I mean, come on. We have a couple of live performances this show on stage, on video. People can check the tape.
I checked the transcripts just now to see if I ever talked about acting, and I have not. And there's not a rich history there. I am not a natural stage actor. I'm not a natural performer, I think, in general.
Did you get on stage for South by South Lawn?
Yeah, I was on stage for South by South Lawn, but like I didn't perform with fucking Common. Like, you know, I was just like said some stuff with the mayor of Austin for unclear reasons. What I was in some school plays, you know, in elementary school. In junior high school, I went and decided that the lighting crew would be really what I wanted to do instead.
Cool.
And so was interested in the backstage stuff. Never sort of performed in a dramatic role again. Oh, that's not true. For the math, every year the math team, Mu Alpha Theta, would have a induction ceremony for new members. I was the treasurer of the math team. And we, for some reason, would put on a little performance at the induction ceremony.
And then have a pizza party or what?
No, it was like in the theater of the school. And 1 year I did a stage production, like a pantomime of The Lion King, in which I played various roles with three of my other nerd math friends. And the following year,
working
I did
math into The Lion King? Like,
no math was involved. It was completely unconnected. It was just like, you know, it'd be fun. Let's do a performance of The Lion King in which we're all playing different roles in like a pantomime. We crack each other up and just
very
laugh the whole time.
confused. I'm
Made
very
no sense.
confused, but
made no sense. It's on VHS at my mom's house somewhere. It's a reproducible artifact. And
Jason's
then the following
mom, send
year,
it over, please. Yeah.
me and my friend Matt did a 2-man sort of like parody of Waiting for Godot, which like you can imagine.
Killed.
You can imagine what that was.
Killed.
Crushed. Performed to absolute crickets.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice job. Nice job. Thank you so much, Java. Here's our next voicemail. The Truth Sayer. Lay it on us, Beria.
Hey, y'all, Beria here for the Argo Truth Sayer. And Argo, Alan Arkin. Man, I loved Alan Arkin. Plays a Hollywood lifer who understands one thing above all. If you're going to make a fake movie, it better be a fake hit. Turns out Alan knows something about making hits. Alan Arkin was the founding member of a folk group called the Terriers. This is true, and they wrote an iconic song. For today's Truth Sayer, we're going to be rewinding to the late 50s folk revival and asking which of these 3 songs did Alan Arkin and the Terriers write. 3 songs, but only one was written by Alan Arkin and his band. Time for the Truth Sayer. Number 1. 16 Tons, the coal miner anthem made famous by Tennessee Ernie Ford, a working-class juggernaut that dominated the mid-50s radio. Or is it number 2, Tom Dooley, the Kingston Trio murder ballad smash that helped launch the folk boom in 1958? Or number 3, the Banana Boat song, Deo, the Calypso work song that later turned into a worldwide phenomenon by Harry Belafonte. Which one of those 3 songs did Alan Arkin actually help write?
That's
Wasn't
crazy.
Was it 16 Tons? Was that the one from
The
Night
end
of
of
Seven Kingdoms?
Seven Kingdoms, yeah. Which I believe should be Big John.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. What do you think?
There's no way he wrote Calypso, right? That would be that would be fucking crazy. But is it so crazy? It's right.
It's pretty funny. All right, here we go.
I'm going with that.
Here we go.
Did you figure out which late 50s folk revival song Alan Arkin had a hand in writing? Alan Arkin, a founding member of the Terriers, and they co-wrote the Banana Boat song.
Yes!
Belafonte's version, of course, turned it into a global phenomenon, but Arkin was there at the beginning. If you're going to fake some Caribbean patois, it better be a hit. Here ends the Truth Sayer.
Drink
Oh my God.
till the morning come. Did I come and me one
go home. We just had
Now
that in the post-credit stinger. We had that from Beetlejuice.
for the Catherine O'Hara memorial. One of the greatest scenes in cinema history.
That is wild. That's crazy.
Fucking wild. That's fucking wild. Man, the crimes that we have committed against the Caribbean nations have really just unbounded.
So sorry. So sorry. Here is our next voicemail.
Hey guys, Kev here. Really excited to hear this conversation with Ben Rhodes and your discussion of Argo, which I remember being a pretty great movie from back then. An unexpected Best Picture win, I think, but nonetheless. Kev's question. This is a movie about the craziest possible plan relative to what they were trying to do. So I'm wondering if you guys can tell stories of plans you didn't think were going to work, but unexpectedly things kind of worked out. Did you ever have an idea or a scheme or a plan that you were like, there's absolutely no shot this will work? And then, lo and behold, it unfolded in front of you pretty much as you had expected. I don't have any, but imagine if I did. Wouldn't that be cool? I guess asking the question is the plan. You know what? I'm just going to leave it there. Crazy schemes you didn't think would work, but worked, if applicable. All right, guys, peace and love, and I'll talk to you all very soon.
Once again, it's Kev's questions.
It's great. Your whole life is crazy schemes that shouldn't work. So go for it.
I will say most recently, I wanted social media clips to be posted, and it was such a fucking pain in the ass. And I never imagined that I would be able to automate all of the posting across all 5 major platforms that are out there. This just seemed like a completely crazy and ambitious idea. It felt like it'd be really hard. And the notion of being able to build it with my dear friend Claude over the course of the last 10 days and have it all work is kind of like staggering.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
We're about to crush, man. We're getting some hits on those numbers. They're starting. People are watching some videos and stuff. It's great.
Yeah. I'm really excited. The posting of the videos is actually the most useful vibe coding thing I've seen done. Like it's actually useful. So I'm pretty excited about that. And also I've removed myself from the supply chain, which I like. I am one job that's been eliminated by AI, and I'm grateful to be on it. I was bad at it and didn't enjoy doing it. You mentioned South by Southlawn already. And that was pretty improbable. Like, you know, we hosted a film and music and ideas festival on the South Lawn of the White House, which there's a bunch of elements of which should have prevented that from ever being possible. Logistically, it's hard doing events at the White House. Getting things paid for is actually very difficult because it wasn't an absolutely large sum of money, but getting money from people in a way that is legally, ethically permissible is actually quite difficult. I mean,
it used to be
if you care. Then like also just the apparatus of the White House itself. I will say in the safety of this podcast that probably no one from the White House residence staff is listening to. They were not super stoked. Like there was not a lot of high level stoke about us doing this. And a lot of like, you just can't possibly do that. And we were up against like real apparatus of the whole machine that just didn't want this fucking thing to happen at all. Like essentially the only people who thought this was a cool idea to do were like me and Barack Obama, and that was not a sufficient number of people, it turns out, to like kind of get this one juice internally. And so that was tough. Like on the night before, I don't know if I've told this story, but like the night before we were doing like basically the tech rehearsal of like, there's this huge screen on the South Lawn. Leonardo DiCaprio was going to come and project his movie Before the Flood. And I do a conversation with Obama, and the screen wasn't working. And the guy who needed the technician who was supposed to come and like fix the screen, got flagged by Secret Service as like a risk. It turns out, it should be noted for this guy, improperly. He was not actually a security risk. He was just improperly flagged by the machinery of the Secret Service. And so I was like awkwardly outside the gate with this guy trying to explain to him that the United States government thought he was a security risk. And he'd be like, fuck you, I'm here at 11 o'clock at night to fix your fucking screen. I'm like, a fair point, sir, but I definitely cannot just get you into this building without like the United States government saying you should. All in all, it felt like fate wanted us to fail at this, and yet it all worked out great. Really, it worked out. Like, I don't remember on the day. I remember literally nothing bad happening whatsoever. Everything worked out great.
How did you fix the screen?
I don't know. Guy got in eventually. Guy got in, twiddled some knobs until 2 a.m. We all went home.
Perfect.
Screen worked great. Actually, there were some when the movie started
Artifacts?
projecting. No, when the movie started projecting, like the audio didn't work at first or something like that, and that was a real fucking white
Stressful
knuckle moment. But it worked
Yeah.
out. Eventually, it was fine.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kev. We love you. You are a hero of all times.
Yeah.
Here is our final voicemail.
Hey, Pat. Hey, this is Corey calling from Austin, Texas, about Ben Affleck's Argo from 2012. I did not see this in the theater. You know, I didn't see The Town in the theater either, and I love both of those movies. Anyway, Affleck, he can direct. You know, like when he's on, he's on. This isn't my favorite, like, persona of Affleck. You know, I like him all depressed and sad and, like, chain smoking and carrying, like, fucking donuts for the kids, you know, like 12 in the afternoon for breakfast. Anyway, Argo's great, super fun. It's got a cool kind of caper jauntiness to it, but then also is super serious. Like you know that they're gonna get on that fucking plane, but it is so tense. Even this time, I knew how it was gonna end, and I was still like on the edge of my seat when they're trying to get through with the tickets and the fucking plane and the Swiss Airlines and oh man, it's great. I love that whole end. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on and on about it. Who would Tilda Swinton play? She should play Bryan Cranston's character.
Oh, the Ben choice.
But I am going to go on and on about it. You know who's, like, really beautiful? Clea Duvall. Like, what is up? She is, like, a stone-cold fox, right?
Yeah.
Oof. When she put that gray in her hair, I know.
Yeah.
And then Rory Cochrane, I didn't even recognize him with that fucking mustache. This movie nails dress and hair. They did a really great job. Kudos to those people.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me. I got to go. Love you guys. Talk to y'all next week. Hey, I think it's going to be like maybe a big deal. Next episode's coming up pretty soon. There's like a countdown or something to 300.
Clea Duvall is amazing on Veep, right? She's the girlfriend.
Yes.
So
She's
funny.
so funny.
God
She's
damn.
also in Carnival, right? Yeah.
I never saw that one.
Claire Duvall. That's a show that I think Corey likes, but we have not talked about. Yeah, she's like the female lead in Carnival.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Jason, we did it, my friend. 299 episodes.
This is where we should hang it up, I feel. This is good a stopping point as anything we're going to find.
Next week on the pod, Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah. I've got some shout outs.
Please.
Timely for the discussion of our movie this week, Argo. There's a new show on HBO called DTF St. Louis. With Jason Bateman. And The Watch fucking hates this show, it turns out. I was surprised to hear about. Yeah. I love this show. I think it's really fun. Shout out to Peter, me in our Discord for flagging it. I've forgotten that it was out and probably wouldn't have watched it. It's been 2 episodes so far, and I think it's great.
Is it more sex oriented than industry or less or
much less? It's not sexy at all. Like it is not sexy. But it's very funny. And like the tone and just the structure of it's very good. It's very like richly structured with lots of like back and forth flashback. Like you kind of figure out how things fit to form. It's created by, run by, directed, written by Stephen Conrad. One of his previous shows is Patriot.
Patriot. What is that show? I've never watched it.
It's so fucking good. There's 2 seasons of Patriot. And it is about a CIA officer John Tavner, who is captured by the Iranian regime, gets out and has a lot of post-traumatic stress. One of the ways he deals with his post-traumatic stress is become a folk singer, and he folk sings about the things that folks thinks about classified information. And he is pulled back in for one last job by his father, who runs the CIA. And they need to like do things like to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It's very, very timely. It's explicitly a story about Iran. I meant to bring it up when we had Ben here because, Ben, while he doesn't necessarily, he's not in the movie, Ben's writing is definitely in the movie because there's a clip where Obama is speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. And Obama's talking about Iran nuclear weapons, and almost to a surety, Ben wrote that speech.
Wow.
And it's just so good. It's got a bunch of your actors that you love, amazing performances, richly textured, so weird. It's so off kilter. All the stuff that The Watch hates about Stephen Conrad, I guess I just adore. It's off kilter. So if its axis doesn't tilt towards you, I guess you're going to bump on it pretty hard. But if it bumps for you, I think you'll find it to be one of the most delightful things you've ever watched.
Okay.
So I really recommend The Patriot.
I will take a look. I will take a look. I recommend The Shining. I recommend people watch The Shining and then get ready for next week, baby. 300.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. I love that enthusiasm from you, buddy. You're really crushing it.
I'm hungry now. Now I need to eat. I haven't had any food today.
Eat your hamburger.
Yeah.
Eat your hamburger. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We love
Peace.
you.